Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Law-Splaining the Interwebs. I am your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, small law firm in central Minnesota. And today we're going to be talking about a whisper network. A whisper network that is so untrue and so doesn't exist that there's all sorts of lols about it. Lols. Definitely doesn't exist. I mean, don't look at the evidence of it that's right in front of your face. Don't look at anything like that. No. It's don't pay attention to what's happening. That would be silly. That would be silly if you did that. Just shut up. It doesn't exist. It's not real. It's not real. So anyway, we're going to be talking about a whisper network, and this is, if you don't know, part 2 of an expose piece that has been done by Bleeding Fool. Bleeding Fool is the publication. It is bleedingfool.com. Don't try to Google it, because you can't get to their main page on Google, apparently, is what I've heard. I haven't tried it. Should I try it? Should we try it? Try it here? Let's just Google Bleeding Fool. And if we click on that, we get Twitter. Oh, we do get Bleeding Fool author, admin, categories. Weird. But they don't just have the Bleeding Fool website as the first result. So that is interesting. But anyway, it doesn't really matter for this piece. We are talking about Bleeding Fool's Whisper Network Part 2, Media Cover-Ups and Coordinated Future Attacks. We will be going through this article. We will be discussing it. We will be discussing the implications of it. There are some legal allegations that happen to be in a certain lawyer's neck of the woods in it, so we can talk about what that means as well. We can talk about what it means to embezzle money, I suppose. What the elements of embezzlement or theft are. What the possibilities are, what the statute of limitations is, just in case someone were on an extended trip to Canada, to see if they'll be back before maybe the statute of limitations is up or anything else. So we will be talking about that, going through that article. I don't know. I'm not a comic. I am not a comics. I am not an comic. I am not Comicsgate. Oh, very controversial, because I don't make comics. I would like to make one. I'm trying to work on one, but it's just very, very difficult when your time is eaten up by other things. So that's kind of on pause right now. But anyway, I'm not like an expert on the industry. So we're going to look at it. The last one that came out, the last one of these articles that came out was the Whisper Network Part 1. And a really brilliant legal analysis was posted on Twitter by a really phenomenal legal mind who has no idea what they're talking about. And they posted how this was defamation against some various females. I guess they actually never said who was being defamed or how, which are kind of two elements of defamation. Like, some of the really important parts of defamation are who would actually sue and what was said that is about them. But anyway, that was a dumb legal analysis. It was also sucked off by a whole bunch of people, because of confirmation bias, and they thought it was brilliant. It with brilliant, and you know, I don't know. I thought it was rather amateurish, and I don't know what that lawyer normally practices in. So works for some AIDS advocacy group or something like that, where they advocate for AIDS. But I can tell they don't do maybe any litigation at all. At all. They certainly don't do defamation litigation. I would think they maybe don't even look at defamation cases, but maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong. Some people certainly said I was wrong. Now, of course, they had trouble pointing out like where. I'm messing with this stupid cork. Oh my God. It's got the plastic on it. The plastic on it is very annoying. So we are going to talk Whisper Network tonight. We're going to do that. That's kind of the main focus of the show. There are some other topics going on that I you know, as this week has gone by, there have been various topics that I've been covering, and I'm trying to have some variety and spice, because outside of a particularly funny legal document, it's hard for you guys to watch, and it's hard for me to do just a straight reading of, you know, just anything. There's got to be something to it that makes it good. So, you know, I'm trying to mix in subjects alongside stuff like that. We talked about Trump stuff yesterday. We may take a little bit of an extended peek today. I don't know if you saw earlier, but I think many of you have. I did release a video about Patreon getting slapped in court. Patreon did not have a good day yesterday. They did not have a good day yesterday, and today is you know, no better as far as that. So we'll be talking about that. We might take a little bit of a deeper look at what was going on there, but if you want a short version of that and you happen to have not seen it yet, please check out my video, the 3 reasons Patreon got wrecked in court. That went up. It went up a couple hours ago. Yeah, that's really it. There were 3 reasons that they lost. The judge laid them out. That's the genesis of the 3 reasons. And but we can talk a lot more about it, especially because in the comment section of that video is an ongoing debate. I don't know if you know this. I don't know if you guys know this, but Vox Day and Owen Benjamin have some people who don't like them. All right? They do have that. And so there's like a mix of a whole bunch of... Anytime you do these videos, there's like a mix of an audience. So there are some people who don't like me. There's some people who don't like Vox or Owen Benjamin. There's some people who might like just really love Patreon. I don't know. There's some people who might have been watching some other YouTubers or reading certain Reddit posts that said that all of this was ill-fated and that Vox and Owen were about to be buried alive in caskets by Patreon or whatever. There's a lot of things that have been said about this, and so therefore there are some camps out there with specific beliefs about aspects of this suit or this action. It's not really just a suit. If it was just a suit, it would be a lawsuit, but it's not. It's an arbitration, and there's a greater action going on. And so I want to address some of the things that are said in those comments, because even though some of them are couched in snark, and I'm trying to be not too snarky responding to some of them, even though some of them are couched in snark, there are good questions on really confusing topics. And I think it's really important to know that, like Cernovich tweeted out last night or today, about the losing of Patreon. And he said the judge applying long established law. I mean, that's a little melodramatic. It wasn't plainly apparent that this, how do I put this? This is not a procedurally normative case. This isn't like a, oh, well, this happens every day. This is a rare type thing. And some of the precedents the judge used were old, but the main one he used was from 2008. But even so, that's injunction questions. The overall procedural posture of this legal action is complicated and novel. And part of the strategy, for better or worse, is leveraging this tide of arbitrations and the severe penalties that come along with that, and the financially disadvantageous position that Patreon has put itself in. And that's what Patreon was complaining about. Well, we're going to have to pay a lot of money. And the judge essentially said, yep, that's too bad. And it is too bad. It is too bad for them that no one will care that they have to pay money to enforce the rules that they asked for. So while this is a long way of saying that, while some people like Cernovich has made it seem like this was kind of how it was definitely going to go, and this is how it was likely going to go. But I don't like the way he said that long-standing precedent sort of approach. It makes it seem like this was a passé, foregone conclusion, and that a judge wasn't going to come to the rescue of a tech company and say, look, a lot of people, this boils down to a lot of people out there are baffled by this result. They're baffled because they have heard so many people say that Vox and Owen are doing something stupid, they're grifting, whatever, and you can think all that, that's fine, and that they were definitely going to lose because now Patreon's big legal team was coming to get them. But Patreon doesn't really have like a heavy-hitting legal team or anything like that. They're not that big of a company, and they have been acting in ways that are absolutely averse to their own interests. So if they're being advised by their lawyers, they should fire them, because what they're being advised to do is dumb, and it's making things harder on them generally. But that being said, we'll be talking a little bit about some of that stuff as well. And then, you know, if you guys have any specific subjects or things you want me to talk about, we should do that. But I think those two subjects are going to make up the bulk of the show tonight. We're going to try and have some laughs. You know, we'll see what comes about. I skimmed the Whisper Network article. I did not read every single word, but I read a lot of it to prep for this. So we're gonna try and go through and talk about. Let's try and frame the discussion. Is there any legal liability for Bleeding Fool and how they're reporting on this? Because that was kind of the questions last time was, are they committing defamation by doing this? And then we'll also be looking at what is the liability of what's going on in the Whisper Network? What is this thing? This is allegations of an organized effort to take people down in some way or another, to make them bend the knee, to make them worship at the almighty yeast-infected V of these. Sorry, that was a little forward. The St. Louis couple and the DA tampering with evidence. Yeah, I'm probably going to do a short video on that tomorrow. I wanted to have 2 videos done today, but a lot of stuff came up and front-loaded my day, and I wasn't able to do 2 of them. But we're probably going to have a video coming out about that in a little bit. We'll talk about the legal liability of the Whisper Network, what it looks like, and you guys see it. It's out there. And I think that's a good thing that the article kind of does here, because a lot of this stuff is from the past. Like they've got Facebook posts from 2017, 2018, stuff like that. And if you've been following Comicsgate from its genesis to whatever it is now, you know about a lot of this stuff already. Like, you're going to read this article and go, okay, yeah, I know. But it's put together in a nice, comprehensive way here. But the things that they've done, though, is to take those older claims and contextualize them in more current with more current events. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to laugh at King Supercuck, Tom King, as much as possible. I don't know if there will be particular opportunities to laugh at I used to be a CIA agent, Tom King, and the fact that all of these guys in comics right now are trying to appease, you can't call them basement dwelling because they don't fit through the basement door. They're trying to appease blimps. Let's see, how do we word this? Okay. Bi-curious duplex dwelling blimps. There you go. That's who their careers rely on. There's not really any other way to say it, right? These are it's going to sound rude, unimportant people. They're unimportant. They're unimportant to the industry. They're unimportant to you, to anybody else. And they have created a demand network that controls the top level talent, whatever that is, in the comics industry. They control them. And I mean, it's gotten out of hand to the point where a lot of people think that the comics industry is on the verge of absolute self-immolation, that it is gone. And there's a lot to that, I think. The models that they're on, the distribution model, all of that is based on old stuff. And then you've got newer ideas like people in Comicsgate. And it's not that it's a new idea. It's just a more recent application of an old idea where they are direct marketing to people through the tools that are available, like YouTube, like Twitter, Facebook, all of that stuff. And they're able to have very successful comic book businesses. Whereas the actual comic industry is riding on government loans and the prayer that their stores, their distribution model will still be there at the end of COVID. And so, but all of that is underscored by the fact that they're beholden to these voices that aren't paying the bills. They're not creating the stuff that sells. They're not doing anything, right? One of the obvious is Renfamous. Like, Renfamous has an undue amount of sway. I know she has a lot of gravitational pull, but she really shouldn't have any sort of sway in the comics industry. For no other reason than she's not employed in it. She doesn't make comics, and she doesn't even have that big of a Twitter account. What influence should she have? What merit would she have to gain it? No one can figure that out. But for some reason, they listen to people like her. I mean, but we know why, right? We know why. It's the Whisper Network. It's not her. It's not her. I don't even know if she's in the group. It doesn't matter, though. She's representative of this thing. She's representative of this thing that people like Zoe Quinn, Mags Visaggio, and like Heather Antos, she's representative of this thing that does exist. Whether or not she's in it is irrelevant. I don't know. I don't care. because her opinions are just copied from the same mindset that the opinions of the Whisper Network are. To be clear, I have no idea if she's working with these people or if they work with her. I mean, I have some guesses, maybe, but it doesn't matter because their brains are in this realm of social justice dysfunction that produces the same results. They're walking algorithms. And the same data goes in and the same garbage spew comes out. So it doesn't matter who's in the group because this group is a Whisper Network, yes, but it's also just representative of this mindset that's permeating through the fringes of comics and holding massive control over the people at the top. I hope I'm explaining this adequately and ominously enough. And while I have done that, I'm now going to take a pause. I bought a new whiskey. This is High West Rye whiskey. This is a big, tall, skinny bottle. This is Rendezvous Rye, a blend of straight rye whiskeys to make one gay rye whiskey. So this is a blend of straight rye whiskeys, and I'm going to try it out. I'm not usually a blended whiskey. I prefer single malts, but I'm okay with blends. It's just not my preferred. Not my preferred. I know somebody out there loves that. The 1792 Viden the Cold One is right here. Small batch 1792 is what I had. So that's that. Red Pirate 115 says, after you finish Black Lagoon, you should seriously check out Bacano if 1930s gangster stories are your thing. All stories are my thing if they're good. Micah Robinson says, buy some Black Velvet toasted caramel and drink it straight up. I'm not a fan of flavored whiskeys. Ooh. That's smooth. Very, very smooth. That's good. Good stuff. You can taste the rye. Rye whiskey it's a little bit of a... Bourbon has a sweet corn taste. Rye whiskey, obviously it's rye, but it has, it's got an earthy... I don't know how to describe it other than rye, but it's a little bit tangy and bitter, in a good way. Not like pucker bitter, but it's just good. I like it. How much was this? I think it was $60, something like that. It's a little expensive for an American whiskey, but not crazy expensive. It was good. Good. Okay, anyway. No, it doesn't taste like dirt. It tastes like rye bread. And whiskey. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. What am I doing? My brain broke. Oh, Whisper Network. Should we do Whisper Network first or Patreon first? Whew. Man, I feel like I just went to sleep on stream. That was amazing. Have you ever had that where you like just completely get lost in what you're doing? Okay, we'll do Whisper Network first. That sounds good. Here we go. Oh, and guys, I've gotten a copy thanks to my Discord. I don't know who got it, but in my Discord, they have deposited a copy of the Jeffrey Epstein, well, the Ghislaine Maxwell documents in regards to the Jeffrey Epstein stuff that came out. They were unsealed like today. Oh, awesome, Ken. So I got those documents. I'm going to look through them and see if there's anything spicy. See if there's anything spicy in them. I don't know, you know, but hopefully that'll be something fun to talk about in just a minute. Okay. So the Whisper Network. I don't know. Can I make the... Oh, I can make the text bigger. Is the text... I got to make sure this is centered. Hold on. Come on now. It's not. We got to do a little bit of work on this, but that's okay. We have the technology. We can rebuild it. Okay, there we go. So, here we are. This is the Whisper Network Part 2. Puggernaut says, did you read Bounding into Comics' article of the UK SGW group, No More Damsels, trying to get Games Workshop to bend the knee and turn on their customers? No, I didn't. Although I saw something about Arch's email campaign and Games Workshop. Did they make some sort of statement about not caving to social justice? I saw something like that. Or not caving to interest groups, or I don't know. It was a little weird. Jim Horman says, I was terribly sorry to hear of your death tomorrow night. Angry, you tagged me to that Warhammer article. Where did you tag me? On Twitter? They retracted their SJW statement? Wow. That's amazing. They need, if they did that, yeah, props. If they actually stick by it. Look, Warhammer 40k, if I may digress for just a little bit, is a diverse enough universe for everybody. They've got black people because they have orcs. They have women because they have, you know, noise marines. And then, you know, they've got Muslims because they have those Tyranids that explode or whatever, right? So they have everything. They have everything you could want. I don't know why anyone is complaining. No, not Sisters of Battle. Those aren't women. Noise Marines. I would never hate on the Sisters of Battle. Oh, I kid. Where are the Mexicans? Every city in Warhammer is walled. They're on the outside. How do you guys not know this? Oh, God. It's jokes. It's just jokes. These jokes are all in love. All in love. This is the thing, right? Like, obviously, I'm kidding. Right? Because they have salamanders. Salamanders are literally black space marines. Actually, charcoal black space marines. You've got entire legions on planets of different basic ethnicities or identities. You have all sorts of races. You have prominent male and female characters at the highest levels. At the highest levels. And the most important, ostensibly male character is dead. He's rotting on a throne. So it's great. But you know, you can't tell jokes about this universe. Can't tell jokes about anything. Anything that you say is a joke is serious, it's offensive, and it's horrible. Oh my God. Okay, let's start reading through this. And Bleeding Fool, I hope you'll forgive me for basically showing your entire article as we go through this on the live stream. But I think it merits a read, and you guys should definitely go. Thank you, Angry Baneling, for sending me the link to the article just now. You should definitely go check this out. check out Bleeding Fool and support them. You know, whatever way that is. If that's just tweeting about their articles, reading their stuff, I don't know what best way to support them is, but just support them because they do good work and they're not chumps. And it's so hard in this industry of comics to find anybody less than an absolute chump, cuck, or simp. Like what, you got Rich Johnston? They got some good jabs at him in here too. It's great. Yeah, I saw EVS did a live stream on this today. I didn't watch it, but I did send him hate. I sent hate his way. I was like, I'm doing a stream on this tonight. And so I hated at him. Also, I will likely be on Yellow Flash's live stream on Saturday talking more about this with Flash. So I have to confirm one or two more things just to make sure I'll be able to do that. But that's kind of the plan right now. So if you want to get some different discussion about it, I will be over on Flash's channel and you should definitely tune in. Should be in the evening hours. I think like 8:30 Central Time, something like that, 9 Central Time. But so we'll be over there. I think, like, it's not confirmed. If I disclose something illegal, please, I apologize. Brian Dewig says, catching up on the stream still, but I second Bacano as an excellent story. Well, sounds good. I'll have to check it out. Phoenix Lord Asserman says, speaking of 40K, my group has set aside a weekend for a 10K point game later this year. My Inari are joining the Imperium to stop the forces of disorder. Pray that the cries of my enemies will be a hymn to my God. Okay. Iniad, right, is the Inari god. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right or if I have the lore right on it, but I think that's it. No, I haven't found out what's up with Tug's kid because I haven't really read Twitter today. We've got a couple more kids staying at our house from, we're babysitting some family members and stuff. So that's me all day. That's me all day. But no, I will follow up with Tug because, if there's anything I can do for him, even if it's just a humble and simple prayer, for him and his kid. I know, I've had 5 kids, obviously 5 kids. Prior to that, if you don't know, we had 3 miscarriages. And they were, those were really hard to deal with. And then in each of the 5 kids has their own unique birth horror story, birth or pregnancy horror story, including real discussions about medically necessary abortions, for example, and stuff like that, including watching Lady Rackets go unconscious from medications in the middle of delivery, watching a couple C-sections, having my firstborn taken from my hands because he wasn't breathing when he was first born. So like, I know the horror of having a sick little one. Okay, I know the horror of having all of the sick little one, of all of the fears that come with childbirth. So I will absolutely reach out to Tug and offer him some encouragement and camaraderie. Tug has always been a nice guy to me and a good internet pal, as it were. And when I got to hang out with him in person, he was absolutely delightful. So anyway, someday I'll do a 9-hour show dedicated to not having anyone ever have a child or get pregnant ever again, because it'll just be the Rekieta birth horror stories. So that's fun. And then, of course, that's just the birth. Then you got that first year and those hospital stays when they get like RSV and stuff. And they're like, oh, don't worry. There's just, when they fall asleep, they don't get enough oxygen to live. Oh, that's good. Thanks. Anyway, let's go to this article. This is the Whisper Network. Part 2, media cover-ups and coordinated future attacks. Since exposing the Whisper Network, tips and testimonials have flooded into the Bleeding Fool inbox from all corners of the internet. It feels like a tectonic shift is happening, and we're still nowhere near done decontaminating the comics industry. Now, there are some people out there who think that it cannot be decontaminated. And I'm kind of the opinion that at this point, napalm it and build something new. Not even from the ashes. Leaf blow the ashes away. The detritus doesn't belong to the customers. It doesn't. They don't deserve that level of suffering. They deserve something much better. And so make something better. And whatever your opinion of Comicsgate, if nothing else, they're trying. They're trying something. And if you don't like what they're trying, but you care about comics, try something else. Perhaps this series will be enough disinfecting light to foil these wicked plans. We'll see. For this installment, I'm going to present an untold history lesson of a massive crime that was initially reported and swiftly followed by a media cover-up that I think a lot of people completely missed. Sometimes it's what the media doesn't report that makes a difference. Then we will go back inside the Secret Women of Comics Facebook group, where I will demonstrate why I think this popular DC Comics writer is the next target of the Whisper Network. And while we're in there, let's expose who the head honchos of the group are, shall we? I've got to take issue immediately. It's not head honchos, it's head ham hocks. Head ham hocks. Oh, goodness gracious. But before we dive in, let me quickly recap and answer the most common reaction to part 1 of the Whisper Network expose. Is this thing even real? So we've got, this very popular cover. I don't even remember what that was a cover for, but they've got arrogant female Whisper Network member. Oh, sure, the Whisper Network exists, but 99% of the time we're not even talking about guys. That's a nice little quote. A few days after part 1 dropped, writer Amy Chu casually confirmed the existence of the Whisper Network, which she dubbed the Arrogant Female Whisper Network on Twitter. Doesn't that sound like a great name for branded merchandise? Amy Chu has, by the way, I am a member of the Arrogant Female Whisper Network, which is neither run by Gail nor Alex, as he claims. I don't know that he claimed it was run by them. I don't know that he claimed that, but okay. And thanks for the new name. We are talking about enamel pins or stickers. And this is precisely why we have a closed group for women, NB, trans, pros. What's NB? Non-binary? Oh, that's what it's got to be, right? Non-binary? What about gay men? Why do they hate gay men? Are they anti-G? Very rude. Hating the gays. Also, very adamantly anti-black men. Black men not allowed into this group. Very racist. All right. This is why the bathroom line... So this is the snark deflection that's going on right here. This is why the bathroom line is so... Someone said because gay men won't F them. Look. Don't worry. I don't think there's any danger. Why the bathroom is so long at Comic-Con. We all go together to plot the destruction of the comics industry. Ah! That's no one said that that's what you're doing. Again, this is I know this person is trying to use comedic deflection. I know that's what they're going for. However, these things, these groups, these organized sort of entities, generally, we don't think you're setting out to cause damage to the industry. We think you're setting out to do something that will cause damage to the industry. That's a subtle but very important difference. It's not that people think you're trying to harm something. It's that people think that your actions, that you may have whatever noble intentions around, will harm the thing, whether you want it to or not. That's a very different, a different sort of attitude. Also, rest assured, 99% of the time, we're not talking about guys. More like how tired we are and lots of cat pics. Well, to borrow their language, Hitler wasn't talking about Jews all the time either, was he? Was that hyperbolic enough for you? Was that, because that's what you dummies do. You have to invoke some mass atrocity. You have to invoke some way out of left field reference. So Hitler wasn't talking about Jews most of the time. So there you go. I guess you guys are just like Hitler then, right? That's how that works. Did I take my SJW manual and shove it down my gullet and digest it enough to regurgitate that at you? I hope I did it effectively. More like how tired we are and lots of cat pics. Literally, no one is surprised that a group of boring, frumpy women is talking about how tired they are and exchanging cat pictures. Nobody is surprised, and no one could have made that joke more effectively than you. Thank you. Thank you. In fact, this is damning evidence of a much larger conspiracy beyond us to turn everything we do and make it about the guys. No, not everything, just the important things. The cat pictures aren't important because if you weren't exchanging cat pictures with each other on your Facebook group, you would just be perusing your cat pictures on your own phone because that's the kind of people you are. Is she trying to convince her followers that the secret group for women, non-binary, and transgender pros that I've uncovered only exists to talk about how tired they are and share cat pictures 99% of the time? Well, as Alex DeCampi has replied to those men who claim to be innocent of sexual assault, quote, cute, but we don't believe you. Importantly, that's a quote by Alex DeCampi, but they're using it ironically, or I don't know if it's ironic even. In part one, we learned that 440 plus women who are either in the comic book industry or connected to it have a secret invite-only Facebook group where outsiders can only find and gain access to if they know where to look, who to ask, and can get approved by the top moderators. More on who those top moderators are later. Members of this club include Zoe Quinn, Gail Simone, Mags Visaggio, Heather Antos, Tamara Bondvillain. Tamara Bondvillain? Her name is it's almost Bond villain. Like all the Bond villains were giant, terrifying men. And many others that are regularly involved, implicated, or at least tertiary to more scandals than I could fit in 100 articles. And while the majority of the group's members have very mundane engagements or inactive accounts, a handful of them are very active. So then here's a YouTube video, Whisper Network in the comic industry exposed. I don't know what this is. I don't know who this is because it, whatever. You guys might have seen that. After reading through part one, oh, that's Dan Fan. My bad. YouTuber Dan Fan above humorously dubbed Alex Campy the Regina George of the group, while also noticing how Rich Johnston of the comic-centric website Bleeding Cool frequently managed his site as more of a personal PR department for DeCampi, along with a writer named Stephanie Cook acting as a sort of apprentice to Alex. I think it was time we took a look at Miss Cook. So there we go. Stephanie is a Toronto-based comic book writer and editor and is also a podcaster and critic. Very, very busy person. She founded various creator-focused websites like Creator Resource, Rogues Portal, and Creator Advisor, where she says she endeavors to give back to the comics community that she loves. She says she does it because, quote, it can be extremely toxic and discouraging at times, but I really believe in the potential of what the comics industry can become. I want to help steer the ship towards progress, inclusivity, transparency, and to just generally be better. which is, if you don't know, that is the nebulous clarion call of social justice. To be better. To do a better thing. To be a better. Not how to be better, just to be better. They can never actually articulate what will be better, because then you could get there. If they articulated what better is, then you could show that you are in fact better. But this is the trick. This is the linchpin of all of this, and as we get through the article, you're going to see this more and more. It's something I was talking about in reference to Dynamite Comics the other day. There is no better. There will never, ever, ever be a better, because you can't be better. It can't. If you're better, they've lost. It's the government program, right? There's nothing more permanent than a government program. Imagine you are Mags Bottovisaggio, right? Or Heather Antos. I mean, I'm sorry to make you imagine things like this. Imagine you're one of these things, and your entire identity becomes swept up in a nebulous idea of making things better. In fact, your position in the industry relies on it not being better enough. Catch you later, Ken. Good to see you, buddy. It requires you not to be better, because if it's better, then the purpose is over. And if the comics industry was better, they would stop listening to the Zoe Quinns. They would stop listening to the Mags, the Heather Antos. They wouldn't have anything else to do with them. And then they might go away, right? Then they might be judged on their merits rather than on their criticisms of misogyny, for example. If that happened, they're at risk. They're no longer of use. So, like a government program, there's nothing more permanent than a movement to better an industry. And as Dynamite Comics found out, you can't apologize hard enough. Can't do it. It will never be enough. As Alex DeCampi said, we don't believe you, to the men. And as you'll see with people like, who is it? Scott Snyder, down below in this article. Your apologies aren't good enough. It's not enough. What you're doing isn't enough. And it never will be. So she works with the comic book community as much as possible to help foster safer and more inclusive spaces for all. Got that? Now that we're all caught up, let me show you where I'm going with this. Of course, that for all is a big question, is a big problem, right? Because it's not for all. It can't be for all. Felony charges in the disappearing news coverage. If a Hugo Award nominated and Eisner Award winning comics writer publicly accused someone else in the comics industry of a felony crime, would you expect the comics media to report it? The media sure made a big deal when the late great Stan Lee accused his assistant of theft, but when New York Times bestseller and legendary comic book pro Bill Willingham, the man responsible for the award-winning DC Vertigo comic book series Fables, recently accused his assistant of embezzlement, the story got memory hold. His assistant had been very eager to break into the business years earlier, and everything was presumably going well until he began to notice that a lot of his money had gone missing. 3 years into her employment, Willingham became convinced that his assistant had betrayed him and that she had embezzled in excess of $10,000 from his accounts. Willingham filed charges with the local authorities and a criminal case was launched. By the way, if Bleeding Cool staff happen to see this, if you give me any details on that, what county, who might have been involved, I will see what documentation I can fish up. Because turns out this happened in Minnesota. So if you can give me any details on that, I'll see if maybe I can fish up some information about it, and we'll see. We'll see what's going on. I would love to see if there's anything I can possibly find out. That female assistant in question just happened to be one of the Whisper Network's rising stars, none other than Stephanie Cook. None other than Stephanie Cook. Oh, Christ. What is wrong with these people? In fact, Bill Willingham made the incident very public, releasing the news to the comics industry press with the following statement. It needs to be reported that during the 3 years she worked for me, Stephanie Cook embezzled and outright stole from me a total in excess of $10,000. Unfortunately, I can't give you anything approaching an exact figure yet, as we're still uncovering instances of theft. And that was from Bill Willingham in September 19 of 2015. Here's an excerpt from that published statement. So let's take a peek. Recently, it's come to my attention that my former personal assistant, Stephanie Cook of Toronto, has been seeking new work in the comic field as a personal assistant. Specifically, I referenced this. On September 4th, she tweeted, "Hey comics pros, need an assistant to help you get stuff done? Check out what I can do for you." That tweet links to her blog site and her pitch. Comic book pros, I know how badly you can be in need of help with your lives. When you're focusing on putting art and writings out there in the world, it can be hard to remember to do other things. That's where I come in. And it goes on from there, mentioning her past experience and examples of the various services she offers. It needs to be reported that during the 3 years she worked for me, Stephanie Cook embezzled and outright stole from me a total of in excess of $10,000, blah, 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 blah. We read that part already. Bill talks about police charges he is pressing, gives a case number for the proceedings, and says that the reason he is taking this public is to prevent Stephanie Cook from working in a similar fashion elsewhere. He then interviews himself in a Q&A article in which he answers himself with a list of allegations of fraudulent behavior against Cook, including withdrawing too much salary on his cards and using additional amounts of his money to fund her own projects, buy social media followers, and fly to Boston for a show, claiming someone else was paying. Well, I guess technically someone else was paying, right? It was just Bill. And he states that if she comes back to the USA from Canada, she may be arrested. According to the folks I spoke with, Cook was well known by Willingham's friends and family, and everyone knew this had happened. They also told me that this was considered an open secret in the comic business. For some reason, those I spoke with have been privately discussing Cook's embezzlement since 2015, but none dared bring it up publicly. For them, Cook's name had strangely become a sort of Voldemort who cannot be named. I'll name it. Give me the details. I don't care about these people. Perhaps because of her reputation and media connections, they're worried about some kind of backlash to their careers if they spoke out, even if everything they were saying was completely true. To hammer the point home even further, another source for this alleged crime spoke up. One of the most respected women in comics appears to have some knowledge of the theft case. Mimi Cruz, co-owner of renowned Utah-based Night Flight Comics, gave credence to Bill Willingham's 2015 public statements backing up his claims. The following was posted on her official blog, and she also linked to it from her Twitter account. I won't read this whole thing. Well, let's skip this and go to here. Or is that from somewhere else? Yeah, no, that's just an excerpt up here. So here's Bill Willingham accuses Stephanie Cook of embezzlement, blah, blah, blah. As someone who's worked with Bill Willingham since 1990, I can say a couple things about him and his character. Not all good, I'm afraid. 1, he is generous with both his hard-earned money and artwork. 2, he's terrible about calling or emailing you back. Oh, what a scumbag. People who don't return calls and emails, they suck. But I guess I am too, so we're both bad. He does not exaggerate about something this serious. If he has reported this to the police and has a case number, it's not a joke. Cook should already be trying to make restitution. Public sympathy will not keep you out of jail. I applaud Willingham for making this situation public and in turn, hopefully, preventing others from being victimized in the same way. Mimi Cruz, Night Flight Comics. I agree. That Mimi Cruz I agree with Mimi Cruz and believe that Mr. Willingham has no motivation to lie. Local police were apparently provided with enough evidence to open a case and begin their investigation. While verifying my story, our editor reached out to Bill himself and confirmed that the criminal case filed in Dodge County, Minnesota, oh, there it is, against Cook is indeed still active. And Willingham has also offered the following comments this week Emphasis added. Well, looks like we got a little investigating to do, right? We got a little investigation to do down in Dodge County. I wonder if, hold on. I don't know if I can do this from home. I might have to go into a courthouse to look it up. Let's see. Search? Damn. Yeah, they don't have any info available. Minnesota's online case lookup is terrible. I hate it. I was hoping to get some info on the fly, but I'll have to maybe pop into a courthouse or make a few phone calls and see what we can find out. I don't know if she ever retained counsel. She threatened to, and at the time, I hoped she would try to sue, since the evidence against her was overwhelming. No new evidence has come to light, unless you count my continuing to go through more old bank records to see how wide-ranging her thieving went. Forensic accounting may be the most tedious of all jobs, and I pretty much had to do it all on my own. So then, not only has Miss Cook gotten away with it, unless she does something incredibly stupid before the statute of limitations expires, she's cost me hundreds of hours of dull labor piecing together the extent of her crimes. Out of sheer embarrassment, I almost stayed quiet about what she did, as far as telling the comic community about her, because I really did make it ridiculously easy for her in almost any way imaginable. It was when she started advertising her services around as a potential PA to other comic book pros that I thought I had some sort of responsibility to speak up. I did that then and again now. People in our business have been duly warned, and I hope I can go back to banishing Stephanie Cook from my thoughts. Whoa! Thought patrolled from thought. Dang. Whew. Straight out of thoughts. So a living legend in the comics business accuses his employee of felony theft and makes very public statements about it that were published in the media. Multiple sources back up his claims and a criminal case was started. One might imagine no one could survive such a public mess. Stephanie's career in comics was most certainly in peril, now that the comics press had gotten a hold of this incredible story. But here's the thing. Comics media either ignored or outright censored the story. In fact, while CBR, Newsarama, Comics Alliance, and The Beat were completely silent on the matter, the only high-profile comic news website that apparently covered the story was none other than Bleeding Cool. As you can see in the screenshot from Night Flight Comics I shared above, Mimi Cruz linked directly to the following Bleeding Cool article on her official blog on September 22nd, 2015. Could Bleeding Cool be the only media outlet that gave any attention or credibility to the story? On September 21st, 2015, story was ranked as the 11th most popular news item on the Bleeding Cool, right behind 3 stories attacking artist Frank Cho. Frank Cho. Man, they were pissed at Frank Cho. Okay. I don't know any details about that. But something strange happens when you click on that particular story link. It takes you to a blank page. It's worth noting that every other link on this top 20 traffic of the week page still works perfectly. Why would the only deleted article in that list be the one where Stephanie Cook was credibly accused of embezzlement by Fable's creator Bill Willingham? Why has it been scrubbed from the site after being such a hot news story? After all, if it bleeds, it leads is the general perception of what gets reported at Bleeding Cool, and head writer Rich Johnston is considered to be a media shark. Oh my god. Like those ones you buy at the aquarium, like that are this big or whatever. What kind of shark? Once he sees red, he attacks anything that moves, ripping apart any pro in his path. I mean, that's like hyperbolic as all get out, and it's great. And I thoroughly believe the comic industry talks about Rich Johnson in that way. Oh, there are fewer people on Earth I would be less intimidated by. Oh my God. But I must admit that he does seem to have a strange penchant for showing mercy whenever Whisper Network comrades are concerned. Sharp-eyed readers may have noticed that Alex DeCampi's name appears on the same page as the Cook story, where DeCampi, and I can't make this stuff up, is accusing a bunch of comics industry pros of sexual misconduct without evidence. No. Never. Never would that happen. Brian Dewick says, the kind of shark Fonzie jumps with a motorcycle. I encourage you to take the time to click on all these links I'm providing. I especially don't want anyone to miss how Rich Johnston ended that DeCampi article. You might be forgiven that thinking that Bleeding Cool is DeCampi's personal website or PR firm after reading this. Let it what he wrote sink in for a minute. So there's a little typo there. Editors, get on that. Quote, if you were... Oh, wait. I'm going to skip the bold quote because it's in here. I've known Alex DeCampi for over 15 years. Not only is she a very fine writer and innovator, her passion for the medium and creativity is evident in the way she cares about it all. She has a very annoying tendency to be right about most things, but as with Cassandra, it doesn't always turn out well for her. Stop. If you're smart, you employ her. If you're even smarter, you listen to what she says. That's the opposite of Cassandra. And then you read her comics and feel clever, amused, moved, dirty, turned on, whatever she wanted you to feel that particular morning. Whether it's her own characters of trademarks for toys, there are few better writers in comics right now. All these are reasons to hire her, not blacklist her. But she and I know exactly what's more likely to happen. You can read her Uncanny Valley Girl columns on the Bleeding Cool, where she laid out the possibilities for digital comic books that some smart people are finally waking up to right here. But you really should read her Tumblr as well, and then hire her. Wow. Wow. Simp 2 Cuckcentric Boogaloo. Vine the Cold One says, thanks for keeping me entertained while I'm up at night worrying about my father's estate. Also, your second movie last night put me to sleep, so thanks. Man, that movie was weird. That movie was weird. I don't think we're watching part 3 tonight, Drifter. I haven't decided yet. Simpin' ain't easy. Simpin' ain't easy. Oh. She laid out the possibilities for digital comic books. Some smart people are finally waking up to. Oh my God. Who wants digital comic books? Like half of the... It's the book. It's the book. I mean, yes, for the majority of the garbage, I guess digital would probably be a better distribution model. But that doesn't mean it was actually going to make money either. And I don't think digital distribution has done wonders for the industry. Wow. Wow. Due diligence. In fairness to Stephanie Cook, she did proclaim her innocence on Twitter. And she also claimed she was getting a lawyer when the alleged embezzlement in Minnesota came to light. But afterwards, she swiftly fled the United States and returned to Canada. Was that to avoid facing charges or answering to the legal system through her lawyer that she claimed to have hired? Or was she just feeling homesick? According to my sources, she never hired anyone. She deleted any and all of her tweets where she claimed she was hiring one. As of today, according to all parties I spoke with, this remains an open embezzlement case, and she still has not hired an attorney. And in Minnesota, embezzlement of this magnitude is punishable by up to 10 years in prison and or fines of up to $20,000. We'll talk about it in a second. According to Bill Willingham's 2015 statement from his original open letter, which Bleeding Cool wiped from their site, she could still be charged with embezzlement should she return to the USA. While I don't have the dollar amount of the alleged embezzlement, Willingham alluded to it being in excess of $10,000. If Cook were to be convicted of a felony for less than $10,000, it could still land her in prison for up to 5 years in the state of Minnesota. That might motivate someone to lay low. He better lay low. Not mention the incident anymore and just wait out the statute of limitations. If only there was someone who owned a small law firm in central Minnesota who could law-explain this hypothetical situation to us. There is someone who can. There is someone who can, and it depends on how it's charged out by the prosecutor. Embezzlement is, at its core, according to Minnesota law, a series of thefts. There's not a special embezzlement provision, I believe, unless there's a federal one if you work for a bank. But embezzlement between private parties tends to just be a series of thefts, or theft by swindle, theft by deception, those types of things, which all fall under the general category of theft. Now, how the prosecutor charges it matters, because the prison sentence that comes from the statute is based on the dollar amount that is stolen, but it's not necessarily based on the aggregate dollar amount that is stolen. They can treat the series of thefts as individual thefts, thereby having a whole lot of charges, but smaller in scope and scale, than having charges for stealing over $10,000 or something of value over $10,000. So it depends on, it's really going to be dependent on the facts of the case, how the alleged thefts would be charged by a prosecutor, if they were done on the same day, or if they were on separate days, if they were for separate things. You know, they might have different facts available to each of the alleged thefts that might necessitate them being broken up and spread out. And if that's the case, you're going to have some misdemeanor thefts and some lower level felony thefts, and then you could have some higher level felony thefts as well. It all depends on the individual transactions. So without some evidence, without more information about it, that's about the best explanation I could give on the hypothetical. I believe the statute of limitations on theft in Minnesota is 6 years. Let's check. 5-year limits. 5 years. So there you go. Is that where, yeah, Minnesota. That's for stolen goods or services valued at more than $35,000, have a 5-year. It might actually be a 3-year statute of limitations on the rest. So, I'll probably look into it if I can, like I said, do a little more research on the entire case as it goes, or do a little, not as it goes, as this situation continues to unfold on Bleeding Fool and their Whisper Network articles, as well as I unfold in looking up any details that I can get and pursuing it. We'll see what happens. But she may be nearing or past her statute of limitations already. And I'll also have to look at the civil statute of limitations, which may actually be 6 years. But they're, statute of limitations are a starting point, and it's possible that you could try and allege that they were dodging them or something like that, but unlikely. Like I said, I'll have to look further into the possibilities. It's not something I go around researching all the time. And it's not that common. It's not that common to have someone with these older crimes come up. In an interesting statute of limitations being irrelevant issue, here in a local town right near where I live, they just charged a guy with a murder from 47 years ago. Imagine living your life for 47 years after shanking some dude, right? And now you're like 70. And they're like, oh yeah, by the way, you're getting charged with murder. But that's how murder works. Murder doesn't have a statute of limitations in most states. So it just popped in my head about what just happened. Long story short, they had some DNA samples, but back when they collected the DNA samples in this small town, they didn't have the crime lab resources to analyze them. So then in going through some of those samples, which they've actually tested a couple times, they finally got like a good test. And then they were able to subpoena this guy, some blood samples from this guy, and they matched up or something like that. I might be doing a video on it because it's just an interesting story. But yeah. Thought I'd got away with it if it wasn't for you damn kids and your damn DNA. Wolvenar, how can I forget Jacob Wetterling? Jacob Wetterling's abduction is like the reason that people in this area's kids don't run around neighborhoods. Anyway. All right. On the subject of transparency. This is an interesting one, right? Because they have a closed group where this all happens. They have an inherently untransparent way of dealing with things. They deal with things very publicly on Twitter. They being people in this sort of cancel culture section of the comics industry is a general they. I'm not talking about Whisper Network people so much as just your typical virtue signaling comics weirdo. And you guys, I mean, some of them are completely unimportant, insane people, like SJW Spider-Man, for example, is completely unimportant and also potentially clinically insane. These people are out there. But anyway, they do things in a very public way, but their communications about these things, unless we're to assume that they're all literal Oblivion NPCs running on the same script, they have this sort of silent or quiet network or set of networks that communicates and very much focus fires and alpha strikes individuals. And you got to be prepared for the alpha strike in this industry because you have to weather it. You don't have to weather it for long. Because they'll get bored and they'll go accuse someone else of being racist tomorrow. But you do have to weather it for just a little bit. But they have this amazing ability to all aggregate around one attack. It's like a school of fish, right? They just all decide to do the same thing at the same time. It's weird. Okay. Comics Beat, the workplace of Cook's, I was going to call her Crooks. Let's call her Crook. Crook's fellow Whisper Network comrade Heidi MacDonald published an interview with Crook back in 2018 where she wanted everyone to know that she's a big fan of transparency. There are a lot of problems with the comic book industry, as anyone who's been in it for a while can tell you. I think some of those problems could be solved with transparency. That's quoting Stephanie Crook. I found it interesting that Crook only seems to want to talk about transparency as it applies to the men in the comics industry, but not herself or her comrades. Strange that there was no mention of those embezzlement charges Mr. Willingham lobbied against Crook in the article. For that matter, there's no mention of it anywhere on the Comics Beat website, save one lone commenter with a good memory and inquisitive mind who at least asked about it in the comments section of the transparency interview. Whatever happened with the good job, Gavin. Whatever happened with the accusations that she embezzled money from Bill Willingham? Was that ever resolved? So there you go. Comments are closed. 2 comments and they close. 2 comments. 1, it's tenant, not tenant. And 2, yeah, whatever happened with those accusations? Boom, done, closed. But to be fair, you know, that's almost a month of having them open. Comments certainly are closed on the subject. 9 months earlier, Heidi herself had posted the news that Comics Pro, Comics Professional Retail Organization, was investigating misappropriation of organization funds by co-founder Gary Dills. So embezzlement stories were fair game then. What changed? Other comics websites also carried the Dills story, but when I looked for the Stephanie Crook, damn it, story, it's just not there. Certainly not at comicsbeat.com or anywhere else apparently. Maybe inside the Whisper Network. Beneficial friends can help make pesky problems disappear. As far as I can tell, the only time Crook ever responded to these accusations was on Twitter, which she later deleted. Here are 2 screen caps of tweets where it looks like Crook posted a response to Willingham's accusations in September 2015. The fact that he would accuse me in public of such incredibly shitty things on my fucking birthday is unbelievable. Are we serious? These people do nothing. Nothing but accuse in public of terrible things. He never provided me with a chance to defend myself and automatically decided that I was guilty. I mean, to be fair, Miss Crook, his bank account seems to have decided that you're guilty. What were you going to say to him? Why not just answer him in public? Yeah, everybody gets a chance to respond and defend themselves, right? Isn't that right? According to these tweets, public accusations are shitty, and not letting people defend themselves first before going public is also bad. In contrast, here are a few more of Stephanie's undeleted tweets regarding instructions on how to handle money, with some more jabs at men for good measure. Weird how the first 2 almost on the anniversary of Willingham's charging her with embezzlement. So here's Crook. Be realistic about this industry to other creators because finding a home for your projects is hard. Finding work consistently enough to pay the bills is even harder. You don't need to find the work to pay the bills. You just find someone's credit card and pay them for you. It should come as no surprise to anyone that all the people telling me that I'm wrong about making money in comics are men. Sweetheart, lots of men don't make money in comics. And it shouldn't come as a surprise. It's an industry that's been dominated by men forever. But who knows what I mean, I don't even know what they're saying she's wrong about. That's the interesting thing. This is out of context, so it's a little bit difficult. Stop giving your money to shitty people when there are plenty of others who will gladly take your support. I thought she was going to say take your money. Oh, God. Oh, wait, that's what she's saying, right? Bill, don't give your money away. Stephanie Crook will just take it from you. Irony's off the charts. This is not a joke. Whisper Network members have been laughing at reports that came out in recent weeks about their group, making light of what was reported or threatening legal reprisals. But this is actually far from funny. Stephanie Crook is writing books for HMH Kids. She organizes comic events. She's considered to be a trusted member of the media, which means that she has the privilege of reporting and handling sensitive information. She's supposed to be helping hook up creators with paying gigs, and yet she's never answered for criminal charges that were leveled at her by her previous employer, an award-winning, highly respected creator in the comic book industry. By the way, if she were actually charged with this in Minnesota, she would likely be enjoined by the conditions of her probation pending the outcome of the trial. She would be enjoined from holding a position of trust over anyone's money or any business's money. She would not be allowed to be a card holder or account holder with any company with which she would be able to take the money of someone else. They would actually stop her from doing that as a condition of her release, most likely. And if she were found guilty, that would likely be a condition of probation for however long that probation would be. How many in the Whisper Network had even heard or knew about this alleged embezzlement beforehand? I bet all of them. But have kept quiet. CBR has published literally hundreds of Bill Willingham related stories, but we're mum on this one. How many people knew about this subsequent media cover-ups or perhaps even helped facilitate them? How many people in the industry have been victimized due to silence, something that Bill Willingham, Mimi Cruz, and others attempted to protect their peers from? No, I am sorry, Amy Chu, but this is not sharing cat pictures, and this is not a joke. This is dead serious, and a lot of folks have things to answer for. Meanwhile, let's take a detour from memory lane for now and look into some more recent history, maybe even peek into the future a bit. So here we have odds for next week's phony Celebrity Comicsgate denouncement. Scott Snyder 3-1, Bendis. You know some of these names, so here you go. And of course, Scott Snyder is the recent. Let's see. The Whisper Network's next likely target. There's a tactic known as playing the long game, where the opposition builds their attacks in intensity slowly over time. Sort of a death by 1,000 cuts approach before the final blow, and then the real Twitter trial begins. On the social platforms, I've observed this pattern in the same handful of folks who frequently talk about taking down the shitty people. The worst of the worst, but only the folks who they allege attack marginalized groups and participate in hate groups. People have asked me about what is the legal definition of the hate group. There isn't one. There isn't one. And that's actually the only thing sheltering these people from retaliatory legal action, is that there is no such thing as a hate group legally. If there was a legal definition of a hate group, you would have very quickly some potential defamation and tortious interference type claims. You know, they say they hate those right-wingers, the Gators, Trumpsters ad infinitum. However, I'm convinced that this group, or several members of it, are targeting anyone with power, regardless of their politics or their affiliations. Potentially a target might be anyone they're jealous of or anyone who has a job they feel entitled to. I've also noticed nearly all of the targets seem to be men. The first cut. Heather Antos. I will never click on a link with Heather Antos on it because you might get a picture. And that would be rude. I caution all of you. Formerly of Marvel Comics, recently doled out a kick to the shins of Scott Snyder of DC Comics. Happens on August 28th, 2018. Does that date sound familiar? This was several months after she left Marvel Comics, and was certainly not fired from Marvel for anything that amounted to bullying, harassment, rumor spreading, and trying to damage the careers of her coworkers, as has been speculated. She left the company voluntarily to become the editor-in-chief of esports betting website Unicron on March 9th, 2018, and as reliably as ever, Rich Johnston gave her a wonderful send-off on Bleeding Cool. Scott Snyder says, on August 28th, Andy Diggle said comics are for everyone. On August 26th, sorry. There's no excuse for harassment. No place for homophobia, transphobia, racism, or misogyny in the comics industry, comics criticism, or comics fandom. Don't be a dick. All of these people talk the same. They all talk the same. They're... You know how, like, your grandparents are like, damn kids, talking like idiots. These people all talk the same. Imagine if you were, many of you probably don't have to imagine, like you're in the meat department at your grocery store, right? And you're like, you pick up a pack of ribeyes, maybe some pork chops or something. You're like, oh man, do I love meat. Someone comes by and is like, do you know that that is processed in a plant that is not friendly to animals? And you're like, yeah, they killed them and chopped them up so I can put them on fire and then eat them. That's not very friendly, but it's good. They're like, but the treatment that they suffer, you mean when they cut them apart or when they like shoot them in the head? Like, it's unacceptable and you need to be better. You need to do better, and we all need to do better. You know this. You've dealt with these people. Like, you've dealt with these people before, and the more people that talk like it, the closer I am to going on a sledgehammer rampage. Scott Snyder says, I was off radar with this being the kids' last week before school starts and missed this yesterday. But of course this. Not of course this. Not of course this, because the premise behind the words is false. The premise behind the words is false. Heather Antos, I'm disappointed. I expected more from you, Scott. You expected more? What more? What? Antos makes what seems like a subtle jab that implies you're not condemning Comicsgate quick enough for my taste, Scott. So that must mean you're tacitly supporting them. Or am I reading that wrong? I don't know if that's the exact read. I don't know if that's the exact read. It's not as I don't know if it's the speed or if it's, but of course this. Like, of course you don't be a jerk and you don't harass people, right? Like, that's such a throwaway. I think that's what she's mad about. It's like, of course you don't murder people, right? Think about it. Let's put it in terms of Black Lives Matter. Like, there's George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin and now all white people must die. Or there's, of course cops shouldn't kill black people because they're black, right? Like, of course cops shouldn't do that. That's not enough. You have to go to prostrating yourself in the street as a white male that is definitely wanting to be a cop because all white males wanted to be cops and just failed the test or whatever. And that's the analog that I think. That's how I read it. It's not the timing. It's the flippancy of the of course. Well, of course we shouldn't harass people. No. It's got to be more than that. That's my read of it. Samsar tweet is simply Antos being Antos, taking a cheap shot whenever she sees an opening and was therefore really nothing out of the ordinary. But was it really a random dig or was it the beginning of something bigger? Comicsgate has been labeled a hate movement by certain self-proclaimed social justice warriors and far-left activists on Twitter, Heather Antos included. However, Comicsgate supporters and the industry pros who are either sympathetic or identify with the movement have always denied these allegations, claiming they are inclusive, they treat everyone equally, love comic books, judge work by its merit, and simply don't like a lot of what they see in the current direction of the industry. And yet, for some reason, Scott Snyder has been compelled to repeatedly denounce the movement on his social media. The October surprise. The October surprise. The Whisper Network was really tearing things up throughout 2017, making crazy comments and trashing pros publicly and privately. But things began to shift in late 2017 after Aubrey Sitterson's G.I. Joe comic was canceled by IDW for low sales. At least that's what was reported. But his critical statement about 9/11 mourners probably didn't sit well with G.I. Joe customers, especially since he crassly... Oh, Aubrey's a guy, okay. Especially since he crassly decided to his provocative comments on the anniversary. Decided to post, I think is what it's supposed to say. His provocative comments on the anniversary, September 11, 2017. This did little to quiet the extreme fringe left, but it planted a seed. Normal comic book fans in the middle, on the right, and even many on the left were growing sick of this sense of hatred towards readers and the heavy-handed politics that writers were regularly inserting. They just want to be entertained, not scolded. Then October rolled around. On October 12, 2018, Marvel writer Cuck Wendig was fired. In his own words, because of the negativity and vulgarity that my tweets bring, it was too much politics, too much vulgarity, too much negativity on my part. I would have fired you for being you. I would have fired Chuck Wendig for existing. Then on October 25th, 2018, comic book professional Mark Waid of Kingdom Come fame started a GoFundMe to pay for a lawsuit. He was accused of tortious interference and defamation by indie comic creator Richard Meyer, started a GoFundMe of his own. As of this time, Meyer's campaign has raised $145,590, while Wade's has only raised $81,465. With all this Sturm und Drang, I surprisingly found virtually nothing happening in the Whisper Network after October 2018. For the rest of the year and for nearly all of 2019, the Twitterati seemed to be on their best behavior. They even stopped much of the trash talking and presumably any colluding behind the scenes. From what I could tell, I could find no threats, no bullying, and the rumor spreading had really died down. It remained relatively quiet until 2020. I wonder if they were worried about Discovery. Dateline 2020. The attacks resume on Snyder. One thing I've come to believe about the Whisper Network, they never forgive and they never forget. Even the tiniest cut will leave a trail of blood for them. On January 14th, 2020, it was none other than Stephanie Crook who took the next swipe at Snyder. It's probably too soft to be considered a cancellation, but that probably wasn't the point. I believe it was designed to build a foundation for future attacks, thereby demeaning him and calling his character into question. Stephanie Crook says, oh, dang. IO9 says, comics scribe Scott Snyder isn't scared to train his competition. Run trains on... I don't think that's what he means. Please stop pitting creators against each other. Upside down smiley face. Nothing good comes from that mentality. No, wrong, wrong, wrong. We're all peers and we're all in this together. No, you're not. No, you aren't. If you're not in comics to also help lift up your peers, then maybe comics isn't for you. Nope, 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 nope. You fail. This is why comics is in the gutter as an industry. It's why you people can't make money. It's why nothing you do will be good ever again. It is always about competition. Competition doesn't mean vicious and underhanded. It doesn't mean anything else. It's just about competing. You are competing. You're competing for every coloring job, every drawing job, every writing job on the planet. You are absolutely in competition against them. And you being better and demanding that the other people be better than you makes better products for us. You make better products if you're competing and not lifting each other. Well, look, I don't want to say I'm a better writer than Scott Snyder, but what you should do is hire him because he needs a hand up. But like, I like your writing style. I think you're better. No, no, no. We're all in this together. No, I'm literally not in this together. I am your employer. And those other companies are my competition. And we make everyone better by being as good as we can be, not by reducing ourselves so that they're okay. Oh, this is terrible. Terrible. Like the Comicsgate guys, for example. They should all be trying to outdo everybody's GoFundMe. Friendly, like not asshole-ish, right? But hey, you should buy my book. I write really well. I wouldn't hire someone else to write my book. I do the writing. I'm a good writer. Here's a story. It kicks ass. Plus, look at the rack on this chick or whatever. Like, that should be your selling point. Look at this art. We have this unique vision. It's awesome. It's cool art. It's better art than we could find anywhere else. Like, look, if you like the other comics, buy them. But you should buy mine. My comic's awesome and it will definitely entertain you. Christopher Sabella. I don't even know who this idiot is. Also, everyone in the writer's workshop never got hired for more than fill-in work. Maybe comics isn't for you, Scott Snyder. Followed up breathlessly by verified Twitter user and proud Whisper Network ally Christopher Sabella, who also... Okay. I don't know who that is. Who also got in a tiny jab when Scott was being put down. I don't think this attack went very well for Crook because it didn't go viral and it didn't gain any traction. A few more months passed before the network lashed out again. I've noticed another pattern seems to be that they bring up the same petty grievances over and over again for years if necessary until it goes viral and or the media reports on it. Yes? Yes? Did you notice that one? Can you guys think of any other industry where maybe a small group of people in some sort of whisper network of Fujoshis or whatever had gotten around and tried to get something to stick on someone for years and then they finally did? Oh, man. Never heard of it. On June 25th, 2020, we witnessed Alex DeCampi, shared here in part 1, saying she doesn't believe that Snyder would say no to abusing, harassing, grooming, and manipulating women, insinuating that he wouldn't intervene if he saw a woman being abused. Would you? I don't know. I'm getting to the... I'm not quite Drex pilled on this, but I'm close. I'm close. Like... Do you walk over there? Now, these are comics book men, so I'm less intimidated by any of them. You know, it's not like War Machine or whatever. These are comics book guys. So I guess if I saw a comics pro abusing a woman, I'd go just like put my hand on his head and laugh at him or something. You just imagine that. But yeah, for the general population, whew. It's hard to... You have to intervene. Why? She's getting abused by that man. Why is she with him? Why is she hanging around him? And guys get abused by women too. Why do they hang around them? That's not my issue. Maybe they like them when they're not drunk or whatever. That's not my problem. It's not yours either. Why are all these women so worried about getting abused by dudes? Like, who do they hang out with? Maybe hang out with people who won't abuse you. Again, she gave no evidence to back up her insinuation that Mr. Snyder had ever sexually abused, harassed, or marginalized anyone. And yet, without cause, she publicly let Snyder's peers, editors, friends, followers, co-workers, and even his wife know that she thought Scott was capable of any of these horrific offenses when she shared it with her 24,000 Twitter followers. I'm sure they all appreciated her opinions on the matter. First of all, this is Tom the Cuck King's pledge. Look, God, fuck, I'm never gonna get over how embarrassing this looks. Like, I'm never going to get over what garbage thing he put together here for their pledge. This looks like, oh God, it looks like a junior high infographic. And that's what Tom King created. As, remember, these people needed a pledge to not abuse women. They needed to, I pledge, like, just, how about you just don't? Sorry, I thought I heard something. How about you just don't abuse women? Like, try that. Isn't that a Bible thing? Don't make oaths. Let your yes be your yes and your no be your no, right? Not that any of these people are, you know, frequent perusers of the Bible. But, like, I will never sign a pledge to not abuse somebody. Like, ever. Why would I? That's weird. That's weirder than just about any other behavior I can think of. But then here's Scott Snyder. I pledge to say no to abuse. harassment, grooming, and manipulation of women and all people of marginalized genders and sexes. Are you with us? No. Take the hashtag comics pledge with me. No. Alex Scamby says, this is cute, but one, we don't believe you. And two, see, here's where we're at a problem. We're at an impasse here. I am going to go against Bleeding Fool on this one. Very brave of me, I know, and it is brave. I have to go against him. I don't believe him either. I don't believe him. I don't believe Tom King. I don't believe any man who signed that. I don't. Because what they did was they castrated their own dignity and then they cooked their own manhoods and ate it for the audience. So I don't trust them at all. I will never trust someone who has to sign a pledge to not do something. I'm not there. I won't go. So I'm with Alex DeCampi on this first one. I don't believe him either. It goes way beyond this to things like speaking up and using your privilege to push change when you see that nobody of marginalized backgrounds are being hired as creators by a particular office, or if they're only given token books. Hey, Alex, have you considered that maybe, just maybe, Jamal Igle isn't talented? And so maybe all your trans writers just aren't that good at making comics? Maybe? Like, what? You're in an industry that is so narrow, and especially when you're talking about the top books. It's so narrow of a field that they're legitimately, legally, there is going to be a minimal amount you can do to even enforce discrimination hiring. Right? It's like if you say, look, Marvel's never hiring black writers for their top 5 books. For example, like let's say that was an allegation, okay? And the court's going to go, wait, so your top 5 books, you got what, 5 writers? Maybe 10, 15 total people possible that you're hiring and rotating through? Like, how are you going to claim that they're not just hiring the best people that they can find that have some specific vendetta against black people? For example, as a hypothetical, the smaller your hiring pool, the more specialized the job requirement would be, or the more talent driven a job is, the less discrimination you have. That's why you have NBA teams, and you can't be sued for not hiring Mexicans, right? Like because they're not tall enough. They play soccer instead of basketball. Like any number of reasons why there just isn't that many Mexican basketball athletes at the top level of the game. There just aren't that many. That's why there aren't that many black hockey players. Just aren't. There's a whole lot of reasons why there aren't. There are probably some good ones. Are the teams discriminating against black hockey players? Should they be forced? No, of course not. And it's the same in any industry like this. Hollywood has gotten away with this forever because, my God, like the number of big budget directors is tiny. It's a tiny pool. So if you hire Ang Lee or something, you can't sue them for discriminating against a white director. That would be nonsense. You want Ang Lee, you want his vision. Like this is also like creator specific desires from the company. We like a guy that writes like Mark Waid. Who do we hire? Oh, maybe we hire Mark Waid, right? Like, so what if he's got the pallor of a pimple? It doesn't matter, because if we want something with the voice of Mark Waid, there's no one else you can possibly hire. All right, anyway, sorry, rant aside. Alex Camby says, it goes to refusing work with a publisher that continues to employ known harassers It goes to saying no to all white male panels at cons. Look, lady, man, whatever you are, if the top, let's say if the top paid writers in the industry are all white males, as you would probably allege, like let's say the top 5 are, and you're going to have a panel of the heavy hitting industry writers, you're probably going to have an all white male panel. Like that's, and if you put someone else on the panel, like a black trans woman, non-binary gender fluid unicorn on the panel who only writes a middlingly successful book, you don't have the industry heavy hitters on a panel anymore. You've got the industry heavy hitters plus a weirdo that is only there out of place. With no or only token numbers of marginalized creators as guests. I'm not. It's all very nice to say pretty words to support and bless, but will you actually risk your comfort to dismantle this system? You haven't so far. Hey, Scott, you better quit. Quit now, Scott. Quit. We're coming for you. If you don't give it up, we will take it. We'll take it. Scott, you have something to take. You better learn. You better learn what Comicsgate means real quick, Scotty. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Scotty doesn't know. Don't tell Scotty. Don't tell him. Better learn quick, Scotty. If you have something to take, they're going to come for it. That's the recipe, by the way. If you don't know, like if you think you're a guy who's not at risk, if you think you're a guy that's not at risk, all right? The ultimate test for are you at risk of being attacked or targeted by some Me Too group is simple. Do you have anything to take? Do you have reputation to take? Do you have dignity to take? Do you have money to take? Do you have position to take? Any one of those 4 things, you are at risk. You are 100% at risk. You're walking on the precipice, and whichever industry you're in, just that's going to gauge the amount of risk you're in. Comics industry, white male, in power, right now, you have a lot to take. Your industry's in the dumpster, and your loss wouldn't be that bad. Your loss would not be a big deal. Someone said Scott Snyder's head guy at DC. Good. I don't think DC would care at all if Scott Snyder was gone tomorrow. Could DC be worse off tomorrow without Scott Snyder? Like, DC isn't in a great place. They're a subsidiary. They're not forging their own path. I don't know if they're profitable in any way. Is there any problem? Like tomorrow, Scott Snyder gets hit by a meteor. Does DC change in any meaningful way? Does Marvel? Is Joe Tacos or whatever still in charge of Marvel? I don't even know. I felt like I heard he stepped down. Would Scott Snyder be accepting of abuse towards women and harassment in the workplace? Or is she saying that Scott Snyder is somewhat of a sexist and racist because he's not dismantling the DC comic system under which he's employed? Yeah, Joe Quesadilla. CB Cebulski is the figurehead of Marvel. What happened with Joe Quesadilla? That was the tacos joke, by the way. Come on. Come on. Work with me here. Or is she simply bitter that his employer has only ever hired her to write one comic and then never employed her again? She certainly seems to be a prolific writer on Twitter, though. Maybe that's why Alex's de facto PR department gleefully turned her Twitter tantrum into a news story, because of course they did. And of course he's referring to Bleeding Cool. Comic book creator, novelist, director, and former Bleeding Cool columnist Alex DeCampi replied to Scott Snyder's pledge, saying, "This is cute, but one, we don't believe you, and two, it goes way beyond this to things like speaking up and using your privilege to push change when you see that nobody of marginalized backgrounds are being hired as creators by a particular office, or they're only given token books." Let's get this clear. Your marginalized background can eat shit. Were I hiring anybody, you come to me the minute you say, "I'm from a marginalized background," get out. I don't care. I don't care. What does that tell me about what I need? Does my for hire sign say looking for marginalized background? No. No. Get out. Go away. Go be marginalized. I don't care. You start telling me your life story. Nope. I don't want it. I don't want your life story. No. You get out. Get out. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. Ever. And that's what these people need to start doing. You don't fire people because they have a marginalized background. You fire them if they mention their background ever. At all. What is your relevant professional background? Well, you see, I'm trans. Get out. Because I'm trans? No, because I asked your relevant professional background and you can't answer a simple question. Leave. It's not relevant to your professional background. I knew you were trans when you walked in because you're Adam's apple. I got it. I don't care. But I do care that you care so damn much that you couldn't go one question without talking about it. Well, look, I grew up black. Oh, are you not black anymore? I know you're black. You're right in front of me. I don't care. What is this? Well, I'm a woman. So what? What is your relevant professional background, please? What is your portfolio? Show me a writing sample. That's what I want. I don't care at all about where you grew up or why. I don't care about your lunch money being beaten out of you by white supremacists or Black Panthers. I don't care. If you're like, look, y'all, I grew up white in Little Rock. I was in that documentary, Banging in Little Rock, where they showed the True G thing in Arkansas, and that was all the white gangs in Little Rock. Yeah, you knew that. I grew up on the... I don't care. Get out. Get out. You're fired for being you. Ever. Oh my God, stop it. There is no marginalized background requirement for 99.99% of jobs. Sorry. Comic creator Teth Fowler, oh God, made a similar point. Gentlemen, it's great that you can post a graphic and a hashtag, but what are you going to do to overhaul the rigged system that you're currently benefiting from? I am so fucking tired. What did y'all tell... ... If you're tired, go die. Like, literally or metaphorically. No one cares. If you're so tired of the industry, leave. Go away. Oh my God. Pay someone to dig a hole, crawl in it, and go to sleep. Nobody cares how tired you are. Fuck me. Imagine you go to McDonald's, right? Yeah, I'd like a double Whopper, please. I am so tired. Yeah, but I still want my double Whopper though. So if you could just like calm it with the life story and maybe get my sandwich. Because I'm at work on a 15-minute break. So here's your $3. If you order a Whopper at McDonald's, I guess you should probably be beaten, right? It doesn't matter. It doesn't. See, that's the problem. Because the person should have said, Whoppers are at Burger King. Instead, they said, I'm so tired. This is the real problem. This is the real problem here. No one cares if you're tired. Like your waitress. I've been waiting for my food for 35 minutes. What's going on? Look, I'm just really tired. I know, but I'm really hungry. I'm sorry that you're tired, but I'm hungry. And I'm paying you. So if you're tired, get somebody else to bring my French dip to the table. So I can dip that sandwich in that shitty au jus. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're tired. I've never ever cared. I've got an excuse, guys. I've got an excuse. I've got an admission to make. It's not an excuse. This is an admission. I am pretty sure I have never once in my life cared about whatever sad thing the employee has told me. Like, man, it's like, hello, sir. How are you today? Oh, I'm good, man. How are you? Well, my dog died. Oh, God, that sucks. Like, that sucks, but I don't care. Can you bag my groceries or whatever you're going to do? It doesn't matter. It never mattered. And it doesn't matter in comics either. Heather Antos, no, or Tess Fowler or whatever. You're all the same. Tess Fowler. No one cares if you're tired. They just care if you draw the pictures or write the words. That's it. That's it. Like if you're tired, go to sleep. Take a week's worth of Valium and sleep. Like that song, right? You know that song. Best friend's girl took a week's worth of Valium and slept. You know what I'm talking about. God damn it. I can't think of the title of that song. Sleep on your time off. What's wrong with you? Freshman, yes. Thank you. Mad Cow, you nailed it. Great song, by the way. When I was young, I knew everything. And it didn't take long for Alex's chum, Stephanie Crook, to coincidentally land another strike on Scott Snyder. Surely this is all happening in a very organic manner and not at all organized beforehand. Stephanie Crook. While we're at it, Snyder took this pledge to say no, but is complicit in allowing comic skaters to work and thrive at DC. Among other things, you can't say no to harassment while allowing people who are actively harassing creators to find work alongside you. What comic skater is working and thriving at DC? What comic skater is working and thriving at DC? I don't know this. I'm not familiar. I'm not up on this lore. This is before the Jay Lee thing. This is June 25th. Jay Lee was just recent. Here we see Stephanie Crook attempting to stain Scott Snyder with a CG adjacent label, which has oddly become the equivalent of a scarlet letter, like calling someone a Nazi lover. Oh, we should watch Klansman tonight. That's a good movie. There's like an 80s movie called a 70s movie, I think, called Klansman on Amazon Prime. Tempted to watch it. Sorry. Like calling someone Nazi lover. Lately, the act of labeling folks CGers and comic skaters has become a very popular harassment tool, like an industry code word that translates to someone in a hate group. Does anyone ever hold her accountable for these defamatory accusations? Of course not. No one in the media held her accountable for the criminal accusations that Bill Willingham leveled against her, so little harassment surely can't sully her reputation. Maybe they get away with it because these harassment tactics seem to work for the Whisper Network. There's no penalty for potentially being wrong about these negative labels being tossed about. As far as I've seen, they don't even have to prove it. And I'm going to take a digression at the end of this section. He says, but I digress. I'm going to take my digression and we're going to talk about, I think, what a lot of people are curious about with the Whisper Network. Is this actionable? Can you sue these people? And you may not like the answer too much. There's no penalty for potentially being wrong about these negative labels being tossed about. As far as I've seen, they don't even have to prove it. I suppose they could accuse 100 people of being a CGer and they'll never have to answer for it. And since comic companies seem to have no bullying or harassment rules against attacking fans and fellow pros online, Marvel and DC staff can use these weapons against readers, peers, and contract workers without any risk. Have all the people in authority been effectively cowed? Yes. They don't have authority, and they have cuck-authority. Last weekend, everyone saw Tom King weaponize a CG association against Asian illustrator and industry legend Jay Lee. One could argue that there were both defamation-like elements and racial elements to King's attack. But he will likely get away with it, as everyone always seems to. Of course he will! Of course he will! Because he's not banging the chicks. He's watching them be banged and masturbating in the corner. This is how it goes. He's been sufficiently cucked. Tom Cuck King. He's no longer... This is metaphor. This is beautiful, poetic metaphor. He's no longer... He's not banging the chicks. Has nothing to do with actual sex, by the way. He's in the corner, giving cuck scent. That's all he's doing. And we know... What do we know about cuck scent? Say it with me. It's an illusion. Tom King's little infographic, his pledge, that was cuck scent. That was cuck scent. Tom. Man to whatever you are still. They don't care that you made the pledge. They never cared that you made the pledge. Your consent is humiliating. And that's what they care about. Because you are the cuck. And they're going to bang the muscle-bound, well-hung guy, whether you consent or not. That's going to happen. This is a metaphor, an allegory, an analogy, whatever you want to call it. An analogy, probably. They're going to bang that guy, whether you consent or not. They just find it funnier if you say yes and watch, because that's more demeaning to you. Okay? I hope you're picking up. I know you're all very eloquent and flowery creatives, very flowery, very smart, well-educated, literary geniuses writing fucking Batman. I can't even keep it up. I can't. They're writing comic books, guys. They're writing comic books. These aren't literary masterpieces. These are not masterful wordsmiths. These are people writing comic books. And it's not a slam to the comic book industry. Comic books are what they are, and they're great, and you can enjoy them all day. You don't have to be reading, like... God damn it. You don't have to be reading Jules Verne. You're reading comics. But this isn't high-level writing. This isn't masterful dialogue put on paper. This isn't... Watch Bone Tomahawk. Watch Bone Tomahawk. And look, just listen to the dialogue in Bone Tomahawk. And I know, here I am. I'm like, Jules Verne, now watch Bone Tomahawk. But seriously, go watch Bone Tomahawk and listen to it. It's delightful. The conversations are amazing. They're so good. Just listen to it. Most comic books, the overwhelming majority, and most books too, but the overwhelming, we're not talking about masterful literary works here. Anyway, if you're not picking up on my analogy, Tom King, they don't care if you were or weren't going to abuse women. Let's get that clear, Tom King. I'll put it in plain English for you. No more jokes, no more satire, no more anything. They don't care whether or not you are going to or going to say you're going to abuse women. They don't care. It's just more humiliating for you to bow at the altar of a fat, unaccomplished, frumpy cum dumpster, to quote someone who I admire. These people are nothing. They're nothing to the industry. They're just a people. They're just a people like anybody else, right? This isn't Stan Lee here. This isn't Todd McFarlane. McFarland. This isn't any of these. This isn't Jim Lee. These are not legends. They're just a people. They're just a thing. At best, at their absolute pinnacle of life achievement, they're a cog. But they have got you, and it doesn't even matter who you are. Because humiliation is part of the domination kink, okay? It doesn't matter who you are. The bigger the target, the bigger their self-imposed orgasm. It doesn't matter, though, if the target's that big. They just want you prostrated in front of them. And if you won't do it, someone else will. And that's the important lesson, guys. They may bother you for it, but if you don't do it, Rich Johnston will. Rich Johnston will do it all day, forever. Forever, because he's a simp, and that's what simps are for. They will find it. You don't have to do this. But they need you. They need somebody to do it, and they want it to be as big as that person can be. This is how it goes. They don't care about your goddamn pledge. They just care that you look like an idiot making it. That's what the little heart meant. Didn't mean you were gonna share cummies with someone. It just meant that they were happy to see you humiliate yourself and look like an absolute spineless idiot for doing it. And they don't care. They don't even care if it gives them power. That's the funny thing. If you would have said nothing, nothing would have ever happened. This is my note to Nick Barucci of Dynamite Comics. This is my note to the next comics creator, the next guy in line. You're coming. It's coming for you. Maybe it's Scott Snyder. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The next guy in line. When it comes, they don't actually care. As Drexel would say, it's all shit test. Either pass it or you fail it. You fail it when you sign a pledge. You fail it when you do something humiliating and debasing and demeaning to you. If you sign that pledge and you don't actively beat women prior to signing that pledge, then you are humiliated and debased, and you deserve all of the ridicule you get, and get out. Get away from me. Get away from my wife and children. Get away from your wife's boyfriend's kids. Get away from everything. You don't deserve to be anywhere. You are terrible. The only people who should be pledging anything are people who are legitimately recovering from being monsters. Everyone else who pledges is an idiot, a cuck, a simp, whatever label you want to put, all of the pejoratives, all into one ball of super demasculinity, shove it right up their goddamn vaginas, and make them vomit it up. It doesn't matter. None of this matters. Ever. Ever, ever. They don't even care if you sign it. Because it won't be good enough anyway. They just want the humiliation. That's all they want. Why do you think cuck porn, incest porn, pegging, sissy porn, why do you think this is getting so popular? Why do you think these are trending on that Pornhub list? Why do you think all this is happening? Because an entire generation of women has been raised on the idea of the domination kink being desirable. Now, I'm not even shaming BDSM people. I'm not. I don't care what you do. Go kink it up. Kink as much as you want to kink. Kink harder than you think. Doesn't matter. That's not what it's about. But an entire generation have been raised on this idea of dominatrix-esque ideology. And it goes far beyond the bedroom. This is the rise of the e-thought. This is the rise of the sexual empowerment of women from the 60s. This is what it is. This is the natural result. Remember, we've got this dual thing going where it's like women's sexual empowerment conflicts with we don't want men to actually have sex with women. No. Free love and, well, not quite free. Like, no. We're at the junction. We're at where these two places cross. It's the rise of the e-thought, where the e-thought can go out and expose herself as much as possible and be virtuous, so long as a man never desires her for exposing herself, but gives her his money anyway. Yas Queen can never be accompanied by a dick pic. And that's the place we're at right now. This is where these two things have come together. And it's actually really important because they just care about the domination. They just care about that. It's not even their fault. They just care about the domination. Because they're told that their bodies are a weapon against men. To control men, to use men, and to manipulate them. And they're similarly told that men are never allowed to succumb to that weapon. It's a fishing hook that never enters the water. That's what they want. I don't know how to better analogize this, but I think I nailed it. I think you guys I think you're with me. Hey, is that Mr. Miller there? Blacklist Universe. I interviewed Dean Cain on my channel today and talked about cancel culture and Tom King hating Asians. Lol back magnificent 7 on Indiegogo. Hey, thank you, Blacklist Universe. I appreciate that. Guys, go check it out. Dean Cain is great. I know a couple people who have met him. Just a great guy. Seems to have a solid head on his shoulders. Crumb, you're going to fight me over what? I'm calling you out. The Big Red Bear says it's such a strange thing to me. 95% of the people accused of being an effist or a Yahtzee, I think fascist or Nazi, are just people who hold conservative views. Anyone to the right of the People's Republic of China seems to eat this label in any industry. Hashtag pitiful. Of course they do. It's not even, the funny thing is, here's the reality, guys. No one, and you know this, no one criticizing or calling someone a Nazi actually thinks they're a Nazi or even cares. It's not about the label. It's about the effective use of the power behind the label. That's what they want. They don't care what Nazi means. Nazi is just a word. And they literally don't care about the origins of it, the meaning behind it, or anything. It's a word of power. It's Nuncia if you're a Warhammer fan, right? That's all it is. It's just, I have a magic word. This magic word makes people do things. More importantly, what things does it do? It makes them humiliate themselves to appease me. It makes them humiliate themselves to appease me. So I will say Nazi. In a way, the right does it too a little bit with SJW, right? We do it a little bit. Not to the same degree and to the same effect, but we know that an SJW label on someone is in some way, it's a word of power. People love magic. Aleister Crowley was very, very popular. Why? He professed magic. He had the ability to make you do something with words. Magic words. We have a fascination with magic. We read comic books. Anyway. Now what about, again, I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm just pointing out that everybody loves magic words. We love them. They're useful. Okay. Last weekend, everyone saw Tom King weaponize the CG Association against Asian illustrator and industry legend Jay Lee. One could argue that there were both defamation-like elements and racial elements to King's attack. He will likely get away with it, as everyone always seems to. Yet in spite of Tom's mea culpa, according to Lee, he and King are not all good, as Mr. King tried to claim to his followers. Which, by the way, the governor of Oregon tried to claim as well. Oh yeah, the feds have finally agreed to leave. And then Chad Wolf, the most alpha named person on the planet, comes in and is like, why are you lying? We didn't agree to leave. We agreed to partner with you to enforce the law. Don't lie. Stop lying. And then what did the feds do? They had the biggest response they've had so far in one day. The biggest showing of federal force in one day happened the day after the governor of Oregon promised that the feds were leaving. It was amazing. Fantastic. But I digress. All right. I just had a huge digression. Let's have a quick legal digression here. Is the Whisper Network actionable? Likely no. And here's why. They're evolving. They learned from Mark Wade. I think that's an important lesson of this article. They shut down their attacks after Wade got sued. Why? Refocus. Learn the new thing. Re-understand. Now what do they do? What do they do now? Let's see. Let me look at something. Jay Lee. Yeah. Who does he work for right now? Marvel Comics, DC Comics, Image Comics, and Dynamite Entertainment. Let's see. Tom King. God, what a simp. I'm supposed to believe that this is CIA? That I'm supposed to believe that? You're kidding me, right? Anyway, who's Tom King? Yeah, he works for DC. So he called out Jay Lee, right? Calls out Jay Lee. He works at the same places that Jay Lee does, right? DC. Let me just reach out and talk to him. Well, if you have a business association that exists with someone, it minimizes the impact of something like TI. Like if you both work for the same publication, oh, well, you might have a justification for talking to him. Oh, hey, do you know this? This could negatively impact our business. Okay. You look at how they're doing it now, how they did the Dynamite stuff, right? Who'd it come from? Who'd the Dynamite stuff come from? It came from 2 Dynamite people, didn't it? The 2 Dynamite people called it out. Then people can pile on. Two Dynamite people called out Nick Barucci. I'm not going to finish my series. Or I'm going to finish it and then never work with him again. Or whatever it was. This is the modification of the Whisper Network. This is what makes it dangerous. When the network gets big enough and the tendrils go into enough different places, you never have to have someone without justification interfere with the contract. Because you've always got someone with the justification. Now, you could try and allege conspiracy, but you better put up proof of that first. That's tough to do. Unless you've got screenshots of it, you better get that proof out there. And that's not going to happen, especially if it's happening in DMs. Like the Whisper Network, think of how networks work. Not all of the Whisper Network's communication is going to happen on their main page or their main group chats. They're going to have splinter groups. 440 people, that's sizable enough that you're definitely going to have little mini factions or partnerships form where people are going to talk about things privately, even more private than the private group they're in. They're going to have a privater group. Of course they will. If you've been in any Facebook group of any size over about 50, this happens. This happens because you like, oh, hey, you like this thing, I like this thing, let's talk. We're internet friends now. Now internet friends suddenly are having an exchange about, well, maybe this guy's problematic or that person's problematic. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's a guy or a woman, by the way. It's guys now. Hey, women. Hey, ladies. Let's be clear on something, ladies. It's guys now, but this isn't men versus women. And this is important for people to understand. This isn't marginalized versus non-marginalized. This is the behavior of in-group, out-group. And the group is sacred, not the classifications that might bring someone to the group. Like if the group is all trans people, but there's base tranny over here who rejects the ideals of the group, base tranny is just as likely to be canceled as anyone else. Because it's in-group, out-group. And that in-group, out-group thinking is, you can go all the way back to Jesus times. You can go back to Abraham. You can go wherever you want for in-group, out-group thinking. It is a function of humanity. The question is, does the rest of society allow the weaponization of in-group, out-group? We did leading up to the civil rights movement, right? We not only weaponized in-group, out-group against blacks for a good chunk of this country's history, we went ahead and codified it in Jim Crow laws. And that's the real nasty part of discrimination, is when you apply the force of law to it, right? Like that's where it's really bad, because now there is no escape. There is no redress from the state. In fact, the state is opposed to you. And that's how far we let in-group, out-group go on civil rights. Absolutely. That's a problem. But in-group, out-group thinking can be found everywhere in our history, in every culture. You can find it all over the place. The reality is the out-group is always at risk from the in-group. Ladies, once they're done working through the men, they're coming for that ass. They're coming for it. They're coming for it. Anyway, is it actionable? No, because they've efficiently distributed the work in a way that is legally shieldable. It's legally shieldable. I mean, in theory, you could procure direct messages. You could procure direct messages. Yeah, and if you want to see a product of that in-group, out-group thinking, ask Crumbrion sometime about it. Ask Crumbrion or Iron Liz. Ask Iron Liz about it sometime. You'll learn about it real quick. But they have effectively infiltrated enough places where they can plausibly do this while being somewhat privileged. That's why cases like the Vic case, why cases like Myers' case, they're watching them intently. They can't stop watching them, because if either of them succeed, even in small ways, they must go back and refine the way they do things. And no, there isn't a board meeting of women. We know there's not a board meeting of women. We know that there's not like some board meeting. It's not like that. It's organic. It's organic. People peel back, and then people start tiptoeing into the water, and then other people follow, and they all realize, well, if we just don't swim over there, we won't get eaten. That's how this works. It's not an organized, it doesn't ever have to be organized. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, they don't have a central governing body, and this is why. If it's never organized, you can't attack it. Remember somebody? There's somebody out there. I don't know who. Some guy out there a long time ago that said to maybe another guy, don't take leadership and ownership of the movement. They're going to try and assign you leadership and ownership of the movement. Don't take it. Don't take it. Because once you take it, if you take leadership and ownership, then they have a target to destroy. Then they have something to attack. The Whisper Network, why do you think they reject being the leaders of it? That was so funny. They're not the leaders. Of course not. Whoa, 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 whoa. Of course they're not the leaders. There isn't a leader. There can't be a leader. If there's a leader, there's a target. What if there's never a leader? And leftist organizations have figured this out a long time ago. And right-wingers in general are so like latently authoritarian. And I don't mean at the state versus citizen level. I mean, just, we like organizational structures. Right-wing people like organizational structures, and they like top-down thinking. It's efficient. It's efficient and effective. They've lagged behind on this until the Tea Party really started to turn things around in general. But the left has been way ahead of the right on this. Not having an organizational structure is beneficial when your organization exists to attack. It is the defense. Well, who do you go after? You go after some broke anti-fascist or whatever? Like some guy who literally lives with his mom? Some guy whose mom is in the wall over there next to him? What are you going to go after? What are you going to get? He rents a Prius on the 3 days he goes to work a month. Like, what are you going to get out of him? There's nothing to take. And that's important. Because if there was an organization, there'd be something to take. And there can't be. That's how the Whisper Network is structured. That's how the Whisper Network works. It is making itself into a legally immune entity until someone comes up with the theory to attack it, or more importantly, the evidence to attack it. The evidence to attack it is what matters. And you're not going to get it. It's going to be harder and harder to obscure until someone goes turncoat because their brother or husband or boyfriend or coworker gets attacked. That's when it turns. But we have to wait for that moment. And that moment may never come. May never come. They're getting better and better. So is there legal liability from this stuff? From what we've seen, no. What are they going to do? They're just throwing random statements out there on Twitter. Any phone calls that have to be made come from inside the house. Phone call comes from inside the house, you're defeating most of your claims already. Breck, it's never Rico. It's never Rico. Matt the Beast says, a non sequitur. The mosquitoes that bite your knuckles are stealing your cartilage to inject into Ginsburg's joints, so the bone grinding snapping sounds aren't so apparent when the necromantic energies start moving the body again. Baby blood ain't enough. Thank you. Thank you, Matt the Beast. That's horrifying. Yeah, Ginsburg is hospitalized after a minor non-invasive surgery. That was just her eating foreskins. That was just her eating foreskins at a nice 4-star restaurant. Foreskin star restaurant. Okay. Secret group is discussing Snyder now. This is where things get even more insidious. Another popular activity I've seen inside the Whisper Network is the sharing of contents from personal emails, private phone calls, and texts with all the other members, potentially shaming someone in the industry and turning that person's colleagues against him. These are private messages being shared with 443 women who all work in the same industry. While there is the expected supportive feedback and encouragement, something else seems to be happening. See if you notice it. Following the Whisper Network's June 23rd to 25th Twitter smear job against Snyder, Mags Visaggio seemingly tipped her hand on the Women's Network's secret Facebook page. Based on her history, it appears this could be setting the stage for future attacks. So we've got Magdalene Francis. I guess that's Mags Visage. Says Sarah Gaydos. Her name is Gaydos. Oh my God. It sounds like a giant gay robot enforcer. Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. I'm just so on edge after the Sean Murphy thing. I don't want to get used. Oh yeah, you do. And I don't want to be a dude's emotional support wall when all I signed up for was making a comic. If all they signed up for was making a comic, please, dear Christ, just go make it and shut up. Shut up. Just shut up. I get that enough from Snyder. Oh no. Scott, no. Yeah, you're their creative partner, not their mom therapist. I mean, been there, but it sucks. Isn't Mags trans? Isn't Mags, wasn't Mags Brian or something? So like definitely not their mom. Like that's clear. Certainly not their therapist because they're comic writers or whatever. I mean, been there, but it sucks. Thanks, Gatos. Gatos. I feel like every time Scott calls, we spend 10 minutes. Wait, I feel like every time Scott calls, we spend 10 minutes talking comics and then 45 minutes of him going around in circles. But how he doesn't want to be a bad person, but he doesn't know what to do about X. And he thinks he should stay out of it, but I want to see more. I want to see more. Scott, stop. If you don't understand this, Scott, stop immediately. Just today he was calling me about the Warren thing, and I'm like, dude, I know less than you do right now, and I have literally no advice. I kept telling him I needed to go because my phone was blowing up with day job stuff, and he kept going. Hang up. They want the humiliation. They want it. They want it. They crave it. They need humiliation. They need it. Scott. Hang up the fucking phone, you dummy. Hang up the phone. Why are you taking business advice from this person? I'm assuming it's the Warren Ellis thing they're talking about. Why would you take business advice from this person? Do they have any relevant, any demonstrable experience dealing with anything like any of this? Of course not. Call someone who's actually done business before. But hang up the phone. Mags will tell you all day, I gotta go. I don't want to talk about this. Of course she does. It's about the humiliation. She wants you to call her for advice every day. Every day. Craves it. We'll complain about it later. Craves it. Yeah, Scott Snyder's calling me for advice. Then we get some of the other women talking about emotional dumping, which quickly becomes emotional manipulation. They even bring up Sean Murphy. Then someone throws in Max Bemis for comparison, who Alex DeCampi has eviscerated before. Cecil Castellucci says, Mags, this is part of the other bad behaviors that I think happens. It's a bad behavior. It's a bad... Fucking think Think of these disgusting people. Think of what this is. Look, I'm gonna call my friend and colleague for help. Bad behavior. Fuck you. Oh my gosh, these people are terrible. They're terrible. Imagine you call your friend, right? Like just your bro, your ma'am or whatever. You call up your buddy. You're like, hey, I need some help with something. And they're like, oh yeah, whatever. Man, that was bad behavior of them. Why would they dare call me for help? You're their friend. You're someone they built trust with. Scott, run. Run while you still have man parts left. Run before the estrogen takes over and you're slower. Run! Bucky Ringcell says, Cecil literally came to say this. The things I read about Bemis were a lot of emotional dumping on a co-creator artist and some emotional manipulation, I think. Might have been in this group that I saw it. Let me dig X. Mags tagged you in the old threads, RE Max. Hope it helps. Emotional dumping. If I'm having trouble, I have people I talk to about it. One of them is Lady Rackets. And then I have a couple of male accountability partner, friend, helpers, people that I trust and respect their advice. And they're in different walks of life. Someone I know I can count on for a truthful answer. Whether it's a good answer or not, it's a truthful one. And I know the person, I know the perspective. Like, hey, here's my issue. Can you help me out? What do you got to say about this? That's it. That's healthy. That's not manipulation. Emotional dumping isn't a thing unless the other person is an object to you. Unless the other person isn't a person to you. If they're an object, then of course their emotional dumping is bad. Because, Scott, if I could buy a billboard by your house, I would. Run. These people hate you. They hate you. You may think that you... Like, Scott probably thinks he has a good relationship with Mags. You don't. They hate you. See where this is going? I'm just speculating, but how long before someone accuses Snyder of grooming? Doesn't matter. They hate you. They hate you. Bucky. Mags. Oh, yeah. Cecil. Yep. Amy Chu. Sarah Gatos. I had to stop talking to Scott after the Berganza thing. He felt that everyone should just trust them to work things out behind the scenes. Sarah says, lol, heard that I've before. How's that been? Comics writers, y'all. How's that been going for all of us? Amy Chu, well, he did spearhead the effort to oust Van Sciver. Actually, Scott, stay where you are. Just stay right where you are. Just stay there. You're in good hands. You're in good, manly hands. Casey says, while I wasn't offended by it, Scott had similar behavior with me during Witches. While I wasn't offended by it, then shut up. I was interviewing him every single issue at his request, but really those conversations were 5 to 10 minutes of business and then 20 to 90 minutes of me providing free unlicensed therapy. Oh dear God, how inconvenient for you. Hang up the phone. I kept encouraging him to talk to a professional, which he absolutely has the means to do. Luckily, the book went on hiatus, and I got hours of my life back, as he never really saw fit to speak to me again. I bet this bitch complained about a book going on hiatus. Yeah, Scott's gonna Scott. Scott! Stay there. It is incredibly frustrating, especially his tendency to steamroll and talk over you. It's so hard to get a word in. Then don't talk to him. Remember the very first tweet I shared with you at the beginning of this article where Amy Chu was mocking the Twitter user who claimed that the Whisper Network was run by Gail Simone and Alex DeCampi? Do you notice the little badge next to her name in the secret Facebook thread above? Do you know what that little badge means? See my chart below. The reason Amy Chu was able to say who doesn't run the Whisper Network is because Amy Chu is one of the admins who runs their secret Facebook group, along with some others like editor-in-chief of Oni Press. They approve all of the collusion. Has the stage been set for Snyder? If it has, good. He deserves it. Stay there. In theory, someone like Tess Fowler, Alex DeCampi, Stephanie Crook, Mags Paid for Visage, or Heather Antos were to make a public accusation against Scott Snyder, which they might not, especially after this article drops. But let's say in a hypothetical scenario they decided to, those previous public comments have laid a foundation that many of them have contributed to. All the following statements could be made, and receipts could be provided. And as we've seen in the past, they don't have to provide any evidence. And now they don't have to make the accusation. This is not a criticism of Bleeding Fool, but now Scott knows. He's on blast. He's on their radar. He'll know it. Scott will read this article. He'll know it. He can't step out of line now. Well, Scott did wait way too long to denounce Comicsgate, and we called him out on it. Well, Scott did say he wanted to be competitive and take down fellow creators in January, which is toxic masculinity at the worst. While Scott said he wouldn't manipulate or harass women in June, but we didn't believe him and demonstrated how he didn't care about harassment. Reminder, these are hypotheticals. He's been accused of helping CGers, that's secret code for Nazis. Scott whines a lot on the phone. He's married after all. He wants attention of women, is emotionally dumping, and that's just a step away from grooming behavior, especially since he's a cis white male in a position of power. All the proof of a Twitter takedown requires can be found right there in the digital paper trail above that I believe shows a pattern of problematic behavior. And if a Twitter trial started, I don't think Scott Snyder would have a leg to stand on unless he's truly willing to fight back. And by all indications, he's not. And I'd roll over and spread it. For the Whisper Network to accuse anyone of bullying and harassment could be likened to a case of the pot calling the kettle black. I've only scratched the surface, and by digging into the recent past, finding there's even more that I need to explore further. This rabbit hole goes deep. What looks like collusion from 2018 and earlier is going to be the focus of the Whisper Network Part 3, but I think maybe a good time to share a few screenshots that I've collected while exploring the Whisper Network secret group. Does this look like cat photos and girl talk? Does it look like a lot of companies' complaints of harassment against the Diversity in Comics YouTube channel? And because these women might feel they've been harassed, they discuss the man's Patreon page and the topic of removing a potential source of income for him. Is there any evidence that Meyer ever spoke about these particular women? These screenshots demonstrate a private coordinated cyber attack, something referred to as brigading. So here we've got trying to file a report with Patreon. There's literally a report button on the about diversity in comics, and they need the timestamp of the harassment violation from the dude's hundreds of videos. Oh man, yeah, shocker. You can't just report hundreds of videos to Patreon and expect them to go through it. You might need to give them a little bit of an indication because they're an unpaid by you anyway customer service arm. Fucking dummies. Just another fun reminder of the ways we're forced to dig back through and relive our own harassment. Oh my God, get milkshaked, you boring bitch. Because of course I do not have time to do this, so I don't get to file the report. It's some man to file it for me. Someone find a man to file it. Awesome, I hope he buys himself a burrito with his $800 and it gives him fucking food poisoning. Oh my God. I hope it's a big old salmonella surprise with extra dicks. And just, if you wanted proof, male feminists, that they will never sleep with you, they equate dicks with salmonella. These bitches pack a box lunch, boys. Stay away. Fuck it. It actually wasn't hard to find 3 videos where he targets people by name and instantly begins ranting, so I submitted it. Are you kidding me? Of course it wasn't hard. You watched whatever video it was, right? You dummy. God, you're fucking stupid. I hate how the system is always built to support the abuser. Deal with this in private. It literally doesn't say deal with this in private. You have to provide more proof. No, any proof. She didn't want to provide any proof. Well, we can't discipline him because that will make the company look bad. Never has Patreon ever said this. Never has Patreon said this. So much sympathy. Would you like anyone else to go blah, blah, blah? Honestly, I submitted my report, but more reports cannot hurt. I found the report filing page by Googling Patreon report account. It's like monkeys learning the internet. It's worse than me. 2 days later, I saw Danny Coleman following up on this topic. She seemed to suggest mass reporting Richard Meyer for copyright infringement with the hopes that it will shut down his account faster, thereby cutting off his income. My 2 cents on the Richard Meyer thing. Try reporting his Patreon for copyright infringement. It might get him shut down a lot faster than reporting him for hate speech or defamation, which is always subject to the always flawed community standards of a platform. Just thought. You want to know the problem with this? It's literally a fucking crime. This dumb bitch just advocated people to commit a crime. False copyright claims are a crime, a criminal act, a federal felony. We're on that. From Asher Powell. I bet Asher's a guy. Look at that. Oh my God. Embarrassing. I wish we could get one prosecutor who was based and red-pilled enough to bring any perjury charges against false copyright claimants. I honestly don't know the legal ramification of privately planning to take down someone's Patreon account like this. There's not. The reporting function is justifiable. It's a justifiable communication because they have a public reporting function. So there's not really a legal ramification. There could be for perjury if any prosecutor would ever charge it. If they were successful, Meyer could go after them individually, maybe, but it'd be tough. Not for $800 a month, it's not worth it. Or trying to game the system by getting others to help, but maybe someone with legal expertise can shed some light on the subject. Another Whisper Network coincidence, May 9th, 2018, Antarctic Press proudly announced they'd be publishing Meyer's Jawbreaker graphic novel. At the time, Jawbreaker was one of the most successful Indiegogo campaigns in history, having earned over $400,000 from more than 10,000 backers on the crowdfunding platform. But only a few months earlier, inside the Whisper Network, Mags Botavag seemingly implied that Mark Waid himself had recruited her to do a little legwork for him and uncover some potential evidence for him, whatever for. Back in that secret group, Mags was asking her comrades to help with the cause. I need a favor. Can someone scan Meyer's account looking for his shit posts about me so I can forward them to Waid? I'm super not about reliving that. How? These are the most thin-skinned people on the planet. Someone called you a cum dumpster or whatever online, and you can't take it? I can't relive that. What trauma did you actually suffer from being made fun of? Oh my God, guys, make fun of me all day. I don't care. I can't relive the abuse. If you mean Facebook account, it's pretty locked down. Yeah, I can't see much either unless I'm adding him. I wouldn't add that evil man. Much more to come, but meanwhile, I offer a bit of advice on the next page. Oh, there's another page? I didn't realize that before. Oh, Oh my God. Okay. There's more coming, but I think the following is very important. If you're an editor or company owner, beware. Watch who you give access to your personal finances and your private data to. Be prepared for anonymous tips to come flooding in or hot news from questionable sources. Much like Tom King's recent attack on Jay Lee and many before his, most will have no evidence and can appear suddenly. If you're a creator in the comic industry, beware. If you have a prominent position, anything to take, the mob is likely coming for you. Depending on your identity group, you could have no voice in the media and no one will stand up for you no matter how ridiculous the allegations are. Watch who you interact with. Watch your wallet. Watch your emails and texts. Hey, Scott, when they come for you, all your friends already hate you. They all hate you already, Scott Snyder. They talk about it in private. They don't like it. You'll be like, Mags, help me, Mags. I am Scott Snyder. Help me. I need your help. You know this is all crazy, right? I can trust you. I've talked to you for years. Oh, no. Oh, no, Scott. They already hate you. Your support network's already gone. Learn from Vic. If you dummies don't learn from Vic, his best friends. His friends did it to him. These hoes ain't loyal. To quote Drexel, these hoes ain't loyal. They're not your friends. They never were. They never will be. They hate you. They hate that you talk to them. You are there to be humiliated. And until you learn it, you'll never understand it. Don't be humiliated. Be a damn man. If you're a fan, be vigilant. You can help. I'm not much different from you. Just an outsider looking in. I once felt helpless too. We can do so much as fans. Don't just take my word for it. Look around for yourself and see evidence for this in plain sight. Look into those rumors. Look at the accuser when you hear accusations with little or no evidence. Look at the hate spreading all day long and pay attention to who is starting it. Is it one of the Whisper Network or one of their allies on Twitter? Someone they interact with all the time. Tracing the hate back to the source is very easy, and you'll see the same handful of people initiating it almost every time. Is there a corrupt journalist who you see using unverified rumors or rando tweets as their source? Look a bit closer. Who is this journalist friends with online? Who do they likely speak with behind the scenes to set up these hit pieces? Again, the same handful of people and their close comrades keep popping up time after time whenever I look. If you're still unconvinced, I want you to do the following. Try this experiment. Imagine everyone mentioned in this piece and then swap their genders. How would the comic book media react? Would they be turning a blind eye or writing hundreds of articles about a man being accused of embezzling thousands of dollars from a woman creator after she accused him in public of statements given to the media? Would the mainstream get involved then? Would we see Polygon, CBR, The Beat, ICV2, and many other outlets chime in? Let me go a step further here. He said everyone mentioned. If there were a network of men complaining about industry women on Facebook, what holy shitstorm would follow? Think about what would happen if a network of comic book men were doing the exact same thing with 99% cat posts or whatever, gun posting or whatever it is. Doesn't matter what manly thing you want to pick. Everyone would have lost their shit and everyone in the group would have already been fired. You don't have to go all the way to Stephanie Crook. You just expose the group. Just show that a group of only comics men exists. You don't even need the messages. You wouldn't even need the messages. There's a group of comics men. It's Tom King, Mark Waid, Joe Quesadilla. It's Scott Snyder. It's Jay Lee. And Mike Mignola. It's whatchamacallit, Sean Gordon Murphy. All those guys, they just have a private group. Just them. What are they saying in it? That's all it would take. That's it. Will Marvel, Image, DC, and other companies finally make some common sense online bullying policies? No. 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 They never will. They can't. Brigading and lobbying false accusations will only increase if companies don't step in and make rules for their contractors about harassing, bullying, and publicly accusing coworkers in the comics industry. They can't, as long as they're contractors, they can't control their online speech. The moment every modicum of control for an online contractor about their offline or their off hours public speaking runs the risk of them being employees. They cannot afford for these people to become employees. Can't do it. They'd have to pay them minimum wage. They'd have to pay them benefits. They can't do it. Can't do it. And against hiring social terrorists who perpetuate the cycle of hate. Most of these Twitter storms could have been handled privately. People like Tom King seem to be going for woke points or virtue signaling to the WN. Look, Tom King is just trying to survive, which makes him a huge bitch, but he's just trying to survive and he just doesn't know. Nobody knows. I was listening to the Dick Show this past week, or from this past weekend, and Sword and Scale was on there, Mike Boudet, and Mike was on this show before he was on the Dick Show. Haha, sucker. No, I'm just kidding. Mike was on this show a little while back, but and I like him. I want to have him on again. But in his conversation with Dick, it was interesting. I think I mentioned this yesterday too, but here's a rehash. He's talking about how he's just getting used to all of this. Most people don't know. Angry Baneling Dick does have a YouTube channel. It's called The Dick Show. Most people don't know how to deal with cancel culture because they literally don't think it's real until it comes for them. And they realize that it's not this like overt thing. It's a subtle thing. It's a whisper network. It starts with an accusation. Then that accusation is planted somewhere and festers. And then suddenly it's another and another and another one. And so many people have said it that it must be true. And that's how it works. Mike laid it out perfectly. It's what happened to him. It doesn't matter who you are. Scott Snyder, Tom King, they're fighting it in the way that they think you fight it because they're dumb. And because they're not paying attention, and because if they tried to fight it, even by getting advice from people who've been through it, like Scott Snyder should be calling EVS, being like, hey, look, I know I fucked you over, but can you tell, like, am I in danger here? And if he got advice on that, he would see. Nick Barucci should be calling someone who's been canceled. Say, well, what's going on here? I made my apologies and they're still going. It's like, yeah, buddy, it's not about the apology. That was just humiliating. You were already dead. Omoe mo shinderu. Right? You're already dead, my friend. You've been hit by the fist of the North Star. You're going to die. Now how you handle it matters. No amount of apology. That's just the humiliation they love. But it won't save you. Guys, imagine you're sitting there and someone walks up with a mask and murders 5 people in front of you. And they pull off their mask and they turn and look and they see you and you see their face. You're like, and you say, oh, Bill, I know you. And then you say, I'm sorry, I didn't see anything, right? You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're already done. You may like it if you say, oh, I'm sorry, I'll do anything, whatever. You could offer him a BJ or a handy or whatever. He may even take it. You're still gonna die. You're not making it out of there. Nick Barucci, you're not gonna make it out. There isn't an apology you can make. That's enough. Tom King, virtue signaling for now. They coming. They coming. Because eventually they won't have anyone else to come after. Anyway. Not sure what motivated his Jay Lee attack over the weekend, but it was out of bounds. He's just trying to survive. He sees it. That's the worst part. These people see it. They don't know what to do, and they're afraid to ask the people who've dealt with it. Will these same players continue to grant exclusives and interviews to news outlets? Yes. In comics that help perpetuate harassment and employ so-called journalists who are linked to or provide to the Whisper Network? Yes, of course they will. You can't go against the Whisper Network unless you are based and red-pilled and realize that none of these people matter if you're the damn boss. If you're the boss, cancel me. I dare you. I dare you. Cancel me. It's my company. Fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. Get out. By the way, here's some new people. These are good writers. We hired, instead of hiring woke writers, we hired good writers. Here you go. Have some muscle-bound superheroes saving some big titty damsels with big guns and ninjas and all sorts of cool shit. That's what we're giving you. That's what's coming. People will buy the hell out of your comics. But they can't do that because they don't know. They're not aware. It's comics. The formula isn't hard. Is it time for a list? Should someone start a group for the folks who have been victimized? Everyone who's had rumors and lies spread about them, everyone who had money embezzled, they won't listen. They never will. Everyone who's been blackmailed, they won't listen till they're dead. Everyone who's been trashed by a corrupt journalist, everyone who's been bullied, harassed, or had their livelihood threatened. Should these victims create a group so the world can see what kind of damage has been done, continues to be done by social terrorists in the comic industry? That is the most depressing sounding group ever. Please make it so I can laugh at it. Please make it so I can laugh at it. Maybe the transparency we keep hearing about in the comics biz should be a standard for everyone to follow, not just folks outside of the privileged private Whisper Network, because that would truly be equality. Be right back. Lots more to come. Uh-oh. First of all, how dare you use a Mac? Second of all, here we go. Here's a bunch of, got files. Got the receipts. Got the receipts. So there we are. That is the Whisper Network. We're not going to talk about Patreon tonight. We're already at 2 a.m. Very interesting stuff. As a recap, what's the legal liability for bleeding fool in this? Pretty much nothing. You've got everything backed up by evidence. The way they wrote everything is very, it's either hypothetical or it's very factual, backed up, and then supported by some opinion. What negative factual assertion are we supposed to infer from the gist of the article? That's going to be pretty damn tough to show. So you get there's this interesting thing with publications and defamation is you get the benefit of the gist of the entire article, even if some parts are wrong, outside of those parts being individually maliciously wrong. If the overall thrust or gist of the article is truthful, you lose. And the article writer wins. It's a journalistic deference in defamation law that allows a journalist to get a fact wrong, as long as they're not intentionally getting a fact wrong. To get a fact wrong, but to get the overall story right. And it's an important protection because maybe you're going off of sources here, and maybe those sources aren't perfect. And so one wrong thing with 100 right things, that shouldn't be that big of a deal. Is Bleeding Fool liable here? No, I think it's a great story. Very interesting, very engaging, well written. There's some typos in there. How dare you? But it's a well written piece, and it's very engaging. I look forward to part 3. Legal liability for the Whisper Network? Virtually nothing. With the evidence we've seen, virtually nothing. You have to fight these hoes in the streets that they belong to, and that's it. You can't fight them. You're not going to fight them in court. And they don't have anything to take. They don't have any money. They don't have anything to take. I am going to look up the receipts for the Crook case. I don't know what I'll find, but I'm happy to look into it and see if I can find something special. That would be fun, wouldn't it? You can't take their cats. You don't want their cats. Tonight's movie Sliver, that's a good idea. Let's do super chats. Then yeah, we're going to do Sliver to start. We may do a second movie. I don't know. I'm tired, like Heather Antos. All right, let's do Justice Chats first, Super Chats to follow, and then we will go do Sliver on Twitch. Crusader Saracen says, first, let us talk about the Zionist tool that is the choker. You're wearing a choker, girl. You look like a slave or a dog without a leash, and yet you want me to respect you for dressing like a whore? May Allah bring dark hours and disasters upon you. No, chokers, look. If chokers don't have the little ring on them, they shouldn't exist. If they've got the ring on them, then they're all good. All good. Sliver, not Slither. Slither is not on Prime. Otherwise, I'd be watching it every freaking night. But no, Sliver. Sharon Stone, 1993. Whew. Give you the vapors. Steve Johnson, yes, I do. I don't know if I have the completely unredacted version or not. But yes, I want that. Can you send it to me somehow? Titanium Bank says, finally drank a bottle of Lagavulin 16 tonight. Its deliciousness comes from the perfect balance of smoothness and peatiness since life throws crap at you, peaty, but the smoothness makes you appreciate and persevere in life. You nailed it. You nailed it. That smoky, peaty, earthy taste is like, it's almost offensive, but it goes down so easy. And then you feel like you just stabbed a deer with your penis and killed it and then ate it. That sounded sexual, and it was. That's what it feels like. That's why it's great. Steve Johnson, can you message me on Twitter or email it to me? That would be great. Next, Mercenary X says, did you hear Herman Cain died of beer bug today? No! Herman Cain got the corona? F's please for the man who saved a pizza franchise. Also there's one of those in my town now. Also, the Bakano anime is related to the other anime Durarara as a prequel. I like that better than Bakano, but that's just me. Also, F for your suicide. Damn. Thanks. That addict guy says she gets called out on her birthday, then my birthday is the next day. Thanks for the early present, Nick. Oh, well, you're welcome. Tess not on holiday. Says Herman Cain famously paid a woman to leave. Tess not on holiday says, why are women named Tess awful people 100% of the 1000% of the time? Don't know. Comfy Couch says, look here, look, listen. Crusader Saracen says, if anyone in the comics industry has the slightest semblance of self-preservation, they would adopt the Mike Pence rule the same way that Wall Street and investment firms have. Alas, they might well be on fire for all the self-awareness they exhibit. DLV says, mirror on BitChute, please. I have a BitChute. I got to figure out the file format upload for BitChute. I don't believe they take FLV files, which is how I record through Streamlabs. So I just have to change it. It's not a big deal. It's just what I do. So I don't know. Michael Mason says, Imperial Fist best chapter, Angry Lemons rise up. Laughing Kuru says, Owen's a garbage person. Which Porcelain's documentary here on YouTube pointed out. However, he and Vox Day had every right to sue and beat Patreon. Yeah, I don't know anything about Owen Benjamin, and I have plenty of ideological disagreements with Vox, although I will say Vox has always been cordial to me, even when I initially wasn't very cordial to him. We had a very minor spat disagreement early on, but ever since then, he's been very polite and stuff. And even I had him on the show, and he was a fine guest. And by the way, working on having him on the show again to talk about Patreon's ass kicking very soon. So Vox may have some information that I don't have because he's closer to it, and I would love to ask him some questions and see what he can tell us about it. So, anyway, Bad Vibe says, here, this is for truck stop women falling flat. Looked like it had more potential, but I still say it wasn't the worst movie I've seen. It wasn't even the worst movie we've watched. And what's her face's daughter? She was bad, man. No problem with that. Shouldn't have died, by the way. Micah Robinson says, I hate flavor whiskeys also, but that one is different. It's just a hint of caramel. Maybe. Evan Rogers says, you were watching Black Lagoon? Hashtag Revy Best Girl. No, I got Black Lagoon. I don't know when I'll have time to watch it. Jesse Wild says, yo, Nick, you ever consider having It's a Gundam on with Drex? I'd love to have It's a Gundam on ever. I think that guy's hilarious. I think they'd mesh pretty well. P.S. Ghost Pepper, American Honey, and Rum Buckets are great. I'll take your word for it. Shia LeCuck says, would you let Ethan Ralph date your daughter? No. My daughter's 9. Michael LaValle says, could Patreon reinstate Owen, making all the cases moot, then ban him again under the new TOS to save a bit of money going forward with arbitration? Probably not. Probably not. That would maybe be what we would consider something like acting in bad faith. But let's be very clear here. Patreon reinstating Owen Benjamin does not moot the cases. It might mitigate the damages, but it doesn't moot the cases. So it if they reinstated Owen Benjamin today, they would still have a case. They may not want to pursue it, but they'd still have it. If they reinstated him, they will likely carefully craft something to demand that any breach of that or any alleged deplatforming would require some specifically and particularly articulated term. But I don't know that they're looking to settle with Patreon right now. We'll have to see. Andrew War Snowboard says, Sax plays. You mean that these idiots have been letting out careless whispers this whole time? Yes. Nomad says, have Matthew Vickers on the next Chad Dad stream. Who the shit is Matthew Vickers? Sub Honor Guard says, can/will riders be charged with felonies and be unable to vote? Some of them are. They have to be convicted of felonies to be unable to vote, but some of them have been charged. Something like 20, 23, 24, 25 of them. Lazy Lajdak says, don't they have a thing where the clock is frozen if you voluntarily leave the state? So if she's in Canada, then the clock is stopped. I'm not familiar with that on something that hasn't been charged. I'll have to check. Like I said, I got to research it. It's not a common issue that I would come across. Floofy Cat, welcome to Paralegal Status. Thank you. Justin Bentley says, I will gladly join you on that rampage. Green light. It's a sledgehammer rampage. CJ. Wait, no. Bad Dragon Knight says, thoughts on the new Warhammer 40k Dark Tide game announcement? I haven't stopped cooming since finding out that there was a 40k Vermintide. I haven't stopped. I like Vermintide. I like Warhammer okay. I love 40k. I can't wait. CJ says, hey, look, it's Nick Biden. You know the thing. Oh, damn. I'm watching videos. Says, love you, brother. How odd. Feels like I've lived through this 6 years ago. How odd, huh? Damn. I don't know. I guess that is odd. I'm watching videos. Says, unfortunately, even when it harms people, they can speak. It's a double-edged sword of freedom of speech that I'm willing to do. They aren't, though. He says, have you checked out Rusty Cage's comics? They're pretty good. Nope. I haven't. Nothing against Rusty Cage. I just haven't. I'm watching videos. Says, I don't know. I think not thinking for themselves is up to them, no matter the gender. Blacklist Universe says, thanks, Nick. Hey, you're welcome, buddy. Good luck with all your endeavors. Robert Stratton says, don't bring logos to a Pathos fight. Yes, you're right. Big Red Bears. That was a brainy joke, and I like it. Thank you. Unrelenting Male says hashtag Stephanie Crook. Big Red Bear says, full disclosure, I'm more or less a democratic socialist. I just am a free speech absolutist. No one should be silenced unless calling for violence. I'm with you, brother. I'm with you 100%. Robert Stratton says, even military doctrine agrees with you. Look up 5th generation warfare. Boag says, decentralized, no leaders attacking sponsors. They learned all these tactics from Gamergate. Seems the left learned more out of that than anyone else. I'm watching video says, I just wanted to play video games. What the fuck? We all did. We all did. That's the funny, they're so dumb. All we wanted was to play video games. And we really didn't care. We never cared. Play video games, buy comics, watch anime. We never really cared. If you were just subtle about it, if you were just subtle, we would have bought all the things. We would have bought all of the things. If they could have just been subtle for like 2 decades. We'd have just kept buying shit. Garv Money says, any advice for looking to get a job as a patent agent? Shit, I have no idea. I have no idea. Sorry, buddy. Talk to some patent attorneys around town, some people who specialize in it, and see if they have any suggestions. It's not really my area. Call Stephen Birch. If you need his contact info, give me some kind of buzz, and I can get you connected with his email, and then maybe he can help you with some ideas. I don't know. Kalinka Pavlova says, I thought progressives in comics supported men being more emotionally open, but it's also bad behavior. They don't want men around. Angry Baneling says, by the way, Nick, I forgot to tell you, hide your kumquats. Hide your kumquats. Kalinka says, thanks for revitalizing my furious disdain for progressive women, Nick. It's making me exercise harder. Get it, girl. Get it. Progressive women, terrible. Thor Odinson says, this disgusting industry is in need of an enema, a bleach enema. Reagan, at least it'll be a clean booty. Reagan Lodge, welcome to the paralegal program. I appreciate it very much. Nova Zero says, unwoke DOT HR for people thinking workers, not activists. Shadows King 101 says, if you sued Mags, all you'd get was a used cod piece. I'm watching videos, says, is there any way the early 2000s can come back? No, they can't. They can't. Kalinka says, can you do the old man Jenkins voice? I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids and your stupid dog. So the drifter can stop. Doesn't he want Lemoyne's voice in there? I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you meddling kids and your stupid dog. Dabster McDabberton says, I always say offense is taken, not given. Yes, of course. I'm watching video, says, ghost politics will be heartbroken about Herman Cain. Solemn says, Herman Cain won my vote forever when he quoted the power of one off the Pokemon 2000 soundtrack during his campaign. He nailed it. I loved that guy. I liked Herman Cain. His 999 program for taxation was almost beautiful. It was almost beautiful. The problem is it left open the possibility that one of those nines would be exploited. That was the problem with it. If Herman Cain was president for life, 999 would have been a great, great plan. But Herman Cain wasn't president for life. And wouldn't be. Although maybe. Actually, he would have come close. Kalinka says, clean the industry with sugar soap, because at least they'll think it's edible before it's too late. And then Crusader Saracen. I swear by Allah, I want to beat all of these idiots, cucks, and snake women with 37 shoes for their treachery. May Allah inflict upon them every kind of cancer. He says, real talk. After this case, would Patreon have grounds to sue MasterCard Visa for damages for forcing them to cut creators? Maybe, but they'd have to admit a lot of shit. I hope they do it. They won't. They won't. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out tonight. That is it. We're going to go ahead and start up the outro. Look, if the audio's screwed up, I get it. And I don't know how to fix it yet. So, spam at me that the audio is screwed up. I'm sure it is. But you know, I'm gonna work on it. I need some time. I've barely been at my computer today, so make sure you just spam it. Just tell me over and over that it's terrible. So, all right, guys, go to twitch.tv/Rekieta Law. We're gonna watch Sliver tonight. Should be good. We're gonna aim to start it in about 10 minutes. I'm gonna make some food, and then I'll be back. Thanks, guys. Hope you have a good one. Peace. Peace.
Better than Nick, so pour out a glass for the ones who have passed. Make the law, but we are now. Oh, his lady is fair, and she handles herself with the grace of one who has borne many children. As the wife of a lawman, she makes sure that he has the time and the place to provide for them there. So pour out an odd bag of bow, more love, the spirits flow as the ones who get on and work. So pour out a glass for the team post on Twitter as we hear lost painting tonight. From the white shores of Man to the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who sprains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now. Oh, the guests are all plentiful, from Dante to Drexel. They bring their perspective and spice to the mix. But the reason we're here and the one that we cheer is the one who is showcasing us his career.
You sound like you're coming out of a McDonald's toy. Get wrecked, scrub! As Bell Lantern says, it's Lemoyne singing.
So pour out an odd bag of bow, more love, Freud. The spirits flow as the ones who get on and run. So pour out a glass for the team.
Pour out an odd bag of Balmoral Lefroy. Please help me clean my lungs out of this gunk.
To the hills of Glenlivet, there's no one who sprains the law better than Nick. So pour out a glass for the ones who have passed to make the law what we have now.
I can't wait to hear how this sounds tomorrow when I get to listen. I'm suing you all under the Texas Citizens Participation Act, and you can all get fucked, you goddamn communist pieces of shit. I hope you get bit by 1,000 mosquitoes and have to suffer the fate of living like me for 2 seconds of your miserable fucking lives. You will not stop me. I'm the greatest lawyer of all. I walked upstairs and died. God damn it.